And then the vet said, Mr. Puffs is not ready for that. That's it. Kendall plunks down her glass of iced tea with such force the $6 liquid sloshes over the rim. Grabbing the napkin, she mops up the spill and glares at me over her half-eaten plate of buckwheat crepes. What? I blink at my best friend. Do you realize you've been talking about Mr. Puffs and Cotton Ball and Queen Elizabeth for the past half hour? Kendall leans in, hazel eyes narrowed. It's cat this, cat that, vet this. Oh. Flushing, I look at the clock on the wall of the brunch place Kendall dragged me to. Sure enough, it's been almost 30 minutes since we got here, and I haven't shut up during that time. Embarrassed, I look back at Kendall. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to bore you. No, Emma. Kendall's tone is one of exaggerated patience as she leans back, flipping her sleek, dark hair over her shoulder. You didn't bore me, but you did make me realize something. What? You, my darling, are officially a cat lady. My mouth falls open. What? Yep, a bona fide cat lady. I am not. No. She arches one perfectly shaped eyebrow. Let's review the facts then. When was the last time you had your hair professionally styled? Self-consciously, I tug at the explosion of red curls on my head. Maybe a year or so ago? It was, in fact, for Kendall's 25th birthday party, which means it's been at least 18 months since anything other than a comb touched the frizzy mess. Right. Kendall cuts into her crepe with the daintiness of Queen Elizabeth, my cat, not the British monarch. After chewing her bite, she says, And your last date was when? I have to really think about that one. 2 months ago, I say triumphantly when the recollection finally comes to me. I cut off a piece of my own crepe and fork it into my mouth, muttering, That's not that long ago. No, Kendall agrees, but I'm talking about a real date, not pity coffee with your 60-year-old neighbor. Roger is not 60. He's at most 49, and you're 26. End of story. Now don't evade the question. When was the last time you had a real date? I pick up my glass of water and chug it down as I try to remember. I have to admit, Kendall stumped me on that one. Maybe a year ago? I venture, though I'm pretty sure that the date in question, a less than memorable occasion clearly, predated Kendall's birthday party. A year? Kendall drums her taupe-colored nails on the table. Really, Emma? A year? What? Trying to ignore the flush creeping up my neck, I focus on consuming the rest of my $22 crepe. I'm busy. With your cats, she says pointedly. All 3 of them. Face it, you're a cat lady. I look up from my plate and roll my eyes. Fine. If you insist, then yes, I'm a cat lady. And you're okay with that? She gives me an incredulous look. What, should I jump off the Brooklyn Bridge in despair? I stuff the last bite of my crepe into my mouth. I'm still hungry, but I'm not about to order anything else off the overpriced menu. Liking cats is not a crime. No, but spending all your free time scooping litter boxes while living in New York City is. Kendall pushes her own empty plate away. You're at a prime age to nab a man, and you don't date at all. I blow out an exasperated breath. Because I just don't have the time. And besides, who says I want to nab anyone? I'm perfectly fine on my own. Says she, repeating what every other cat lady tells herself. Honestly, Emma, when was the last time you had sex with anything other than your vibrator? Kendall doesn't bother lowering her voice as she says this, and I feel my face turn red again as a gay couple at the table next to us glance over and snicker. Fortunately, before I can reply, Kendall's Prada purse vibrates. Oh. She frowns as she fishes her phone out and reads whatever her screen says. Looking up, she motions at the waiter. I have to go, she says apologetically. My boss just had a breakthrough with the dress design he's been struggling with, and he needs me to get some models to him, pronto. No worries. I'm used to Kendall's unpredictable job in the fashion industry. Plunking down my debit card, I say, We'll catch up again soon, and pull out my phone to look at my checking account balance. The temperature outside is just above freezing, and the subway station I need is about 10 blocks away from the brunch place. Still, I walk because A, my hips could use the exercise, and B, I can't afford to do anything else. This outing depleted my weekend budget to the point that I'm going to have to push my grocery trip to Monday. I've told Kendall to stop taking me to expensive places, but I should have known she wouldn't regard a $25 brunch as expensive. In New York City, that's practically free. To be fair, Kendall doesn't know just how strained my finances are. My student loans are not something I like to talk about. As far as she's concerned, I live in a basement studio in Brooklyn and clip coupons because I just like to save money. She herself is not exactly pulling in millions. Being an assistant to an up-and-coming fashion designer doesn't pay much more than my bookstore job and editing gigs. But her parents cover most of her bills, so all her salary gets spent on clothes and various luxuries. If she weren't such a good friend, I'd hate her. As I enter the subway station, I almost trip over a homeless man lounging on the stairs. Sorry, I mutter, about to scurry away, but he gives me a toothless grin and extends a brown bag toward me. "It's okay, little lady," he slurs. "Want a sip? Seems like you could use a drink." Startled, I step back. "No thanks, I'm okay." How awful do I look if homeless people offer me alcohol? Maybe there is something to Kendall's cat lady diagnosis. Shrugging, the man takes a swig from the brown bag, and I dash down the stairs before he offers to share something else with me, like the coins in the hat next to him. I'm strapped for cash, but I'm not that desperate. One long train ride later, I come out of the subway in Bay Ridge, my neighborhood in Brooklyn. The second I step outside, a gust of wind hits me in the face. A gust of wind and something wet. Sleeting snow. Great. Just great. Gritting my teeth, I clutch the lapels of my old woolen coat, trying to keep the two edges from separating at my neck, and start walking. I don't live that far from the subway, only 5 blocks, but they're long blocks, and I curse every one of them as the icy rain intensifies. "Watch it," a heavy-set woman snaps as I bump into her, and I automatically mumble an apology. It's not entirely my fault. It takes 2 people to bump into one another, but it's not in my nature to be rude. My grandparents raised me better than that. When I finally reach the brownstone where I'm renting my basement studio, I feel like I've scaled Mount Everest. My face is wet and frozen, and despite my best efforts to keep my coat closed, the sleet got inside, chilling me from within. I'm one of those people who has to have the top half of her body warm. I can tolerate icy feet. I have those too, since my sneakers are not waterproof. But I can't bear to have cold water trickling down my neck. If I'd been mad at Mr. Puffs for tearing up my only decent-looking scarf before, it's nothing compared to how I feel now. That cat is going to get it. "Puffs?" I roar, pushing the door open and stepping into my one-room apartment. "Come here, you evil creature." The cat is nowhere to be seen. Instead, Queen Elizabeth gives me a placid stare from my bed and licks her paw, then starts grooming herself, smoothing each fluffy white hair into place. Cotton Ball is next to her, napping on my pillow. Both felines look warm, content, and utterly carefree. And not for the first time, I feel a pang of irrational envy toward my pets. I'd love to sleep all day and have someone feed me. Shivering, I take off my wet coat, hang it up on the hook by the door, and toe off my sneakers. Then I go in search of Mr. Puffs. I find him in his new favorite place, the top shelf of my closet. It's where I keep hats, gloves, scarves, and bags. Not that I own many of each item, which is why it's a tragedy of epic proportions when the evil cat decides to shred one of them to make room for his furry body. "Puffs, come here." I'm not exactly tall, so I have to stretch up on tiptoes to grab him. Grunting from the effort, I take him down from the shelf. The cat weighs a solid 15 pounds, and with his paws windmilling in the air, he feels twice as heavy. "I told you, you're not allowed to sit there." I set him down on the floor, and he gives me a squinty-eyed stare that says it's only a matter of time before he gets the rest of my accessories. Like his siblings, Mr. Puffs is white and fluffy, the perfect embodiment of his Persian breed. But that's where the similarity ends. There's nothing calm and placid about him. I'm not sure the cat sleeps ever. It's possible he's a vampire who shapeshifts into a huge Persian for daytime. He's certainly evil enough for that. Just when I'm about to yell at him again for tearing up the scarf, he rubs his head on my wet jeans and emits a loud purr. Then he looks up at me, big green eyes blinking innocently. I melt. Or maybe it's the icy droplets clinging to my clothes that are melting, but either way, there's now a warm and fuzzy feeling in my chest. "All right, come here, you stinker," I mutter, kneeling down to pet the cat. He purrs louder, rubbing his head against my hand like I'm his favorite person in the world. I'm almost certain he's manipulating me on purpose. The cat is scary smart, but I can't help falling for it. When it comes to my cats, I'm a total pushover. The petting goes on until Mr. Puffs is certain I'm not going to yell at him. Then he strolls over to my bed and joins the other cats there, curling up on my pillow next to Cotton Ball. I sigh and trudge to the bathroom to take a hot shower. As much as I hate to admit it, Kendall is right. Somewhere along the way, I've turned into a bona fide cat lady. As I shower, I try to convince myself that it's not a big deal. Okay, so my clothes are old and a little ratty, and I don't do anything with my hair except wash it and occasionally put a little gel in it. And yes, I have 3 cats. So what? Lots of people love animals. It's a positive character trait. I've never trusted anyone who doesn't like pets. It's unnatural, like hating chocolate or ice cream. I can see how one might have preferences when it comes to animals. Some sadly misguided individuals prefer dogs to cats, for instance. But not liking pets at all? One might as well be a serial killer. Nonetheless, something about that label, cat lady, stings a bit. Maybe it's because I'm only 26. Like Kendall said, I'm supposed to be in my prime. If I come across as a hot mess now, what's going to happen when I'm 50 or 60? Maybe my dateless stretches will widen from a year plus to a decade, and I'll wander the streets cackling to myself while knitting hats out of cat hair. No, that's ridiculous. Besides, I don't want a man. I really don't. Okay, fine. Maybe I want one for sex. I'm a normal, healthy woman. But I don't need someone dictating my life and dominating my time. That's what happened with Janie, my other best friend from college. She got a serious boyfriend, and now I never see her. And even Kendall, who prides herself on being independent, disappears for weeks at a time when she's dating someone. My last serious boyfriend was my senior year of college, and I nearly flunked a class because he needed so much attention, and that was before I got the cats. Now that Queen Elizabeth, Mr. Puffs, and Cotton Ball are in my life, I can't imagine squeezing in a man as well. Still, when I come out of the shower and grab my phone, some devil on my shoulder, a tiny, stylish one who looks suspiciously like Kendall, makes me pull up a dating app that Janie had me join months ago. It's the same one where she met her current boyfriend, the one who made her disappear from my life. Before said disappearance, she somehow strong-armed me into setting up a profile there. I played around with the app for a couple of days with some vague idea of finding a nice, laid-back guy who likes cats and long walks in the park. But after about a dozen dick pics, I gave up and stopped logging in. "You didn't really give it a shot," Janie said in frustration when I informed her about the pics. "Yeah, there are some assholes on there, but there are also some good guys, like my Landon." "Right," I said, nodding politely. Kendall and I are both of the opinion that Landon, he of the perpetual sneer and petty gossip, is an ass, but I didn't want to say anything to Janie. In hindsight, though, maybe I should have spoken up, because shortly after Janie made me create that profile, she got sucked into the black hole of her relationship, and Kendall and I haven't seen her since. Placing the phone on the bed, I arrange my pillows to provide a backrest for me, a move that involves shooing Cotton Ball and Mr. Puffs off one pillow and moving Queen Elizabeth aside. Cotton Ball and Queen Elizabeth go amicably enough. Queen Elizabeth even jumps off the bed. But Mr. Puffs gives me an evil stare and swishes his tail threateningly from side to side before curling up next to my feet. I know he's going to remember this offense and seek retaliation later. But for now, I have a comfy spot to look at all the dick pics that are undoubtedly waiting for me on the app. Plopping down among the pillows, I log into my profile and check the inbox. Sure enough, there are about 300 messages, with at least 100 of them containing attachments of penile nature. Just for fun, I click through a few of them. Some are actually of decent size and shape. But then I get bored and start systematically erasing them. I don't know how men came up with the idea that dick pics are hot, because they're honestly not. I have nothing against penises, but they don't turn me on unless they're attached to a guy I like. Bonus points if that guy happens to come with washboard abs and nice pecs. But personality is what matters to me most. I'd sooner date a 300-pound baldy who's kind to animals and old ladies than a supermodel perfect asshole with a giant cock. It takes me close to an hour to get through most of the messages. It's when I'm in the home stretch and firmly convinced I will never ever use a dating app again that I see it. A simple attachment-free email from a cartoon avatar of a round-faced man with a shy smile. Intrigued, I click on the message, sent only 3 days ago. "Hi, Emma," it reads. "I'm sure you get this a lot, but I think you're really cute, and I love the cats in your photo. I myself have 2 Persians. They're fat and horribly spoiled, but I love them, and I'm convinced that despite scratching up all my furniture, they love me back. Other than spending time with them, my hobbies include discovering quirky coffee shops in Brooklyn, reading, historical fiction mostly, and rollerblading in the park. Oh, and I work in a bookstore while studying to be a veterinarian. Do you think you'd want to meet up for coffee or dinner one of these days? I know a nice little place in Park Slope. Please let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Thank you, Mark." My pulse racing in excitement, I read the letter again, then go to his profile. There are 2 actual pictures of Mark there, each showing a guy who appears to be exactly my type. Though the pictures are blurry, they resemble his cartoon avatar quite a bit. His rounded face looks kind, his crooked smile is both shy and self-deprecating, and in one picture he's wearing glasses that give him a pleasantly intellectual vibe. According to the profile, he's 27, has brown hair and blue eyes, and lives in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. He's so perfect, I could have ordered him off my secret wish list. Grinning, I reply that I'd love to meet up with him, then jump off the bed and do a happy booty dance. My hair tumbles in frizzy red curls all over my face, and my cats look at me like I'm crazy. But I don't care. Kendall can shove her cat lady labels up her skinny little ass. I have an actual date.
Chapter 2. Marcus. Yes, that's right, I say impatiently. I want her to be neat and well-groomed at all times. She has to have a sense of style. It's very important. A brunette would be best, but a blonde would work too, as long as her hairstyle is conservative. She can't look like she just stepped out of Playboy, understand? Yes, of course, Mr. Corelli. The stylish brunette in front of me crosses her long legs and gives me a polite smile. Victoria Longwood Thierry, matchmaker for the Wallstreet's elite, is exactly what I have in mind for my future wife, except she's in her 50s and married with 3 children. "What about hobbies and interests?" she asks in her carefully modulated voice. "What would you like her to be into?" "Something intellectual," I say. I want to be able to talk to her outside the bedroom. "Of course." Victoria makes a note on her notepad. "How about her profession?" "That doesn't really matter to me. She can be a lawyer, or a doctor, or spend all her time doing charity work for orphans in Haiti. It's all the same as far as I'm concerned. Once we marry, she can either stay home with the kids or continue her career. I'm comfortable with either option." "That's very enlightened of you." Victoria's expression is unchanged, but I get a feeling she's secretly laughing at me. "How do you feel about pets? Do you prefer cats or dogs?" "Neither. I don't like having animals indoors." Victoria makes another note before asking, "What about her height? Do you have a preference?" "Tall," I say immediately, "or at least above average. I'm 6'3", and short women look like children to me." "Okay, good. Victoria jots it down. How about body type? Athletic or slender, I would assume? I nod tersely. Yes, I'm into fitness, and I want her to be in good shape so she can keep up with me. Frowning, I glance at my Patek Philippe watch and see that I have only a half hour before the market opens. Turning my attention back to Victoria, I say, basically, I want a smart, elegant, stylish woman who takes care of herself. Got it. You won't be disappointed, I promise. I'm skeptical, but I keep a poker face as she gets up and politely ushers me out of her office. She promises to contact me within a couple of days, shakes my hand, and heads back in, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume. It's not too strong. Victoria Longwood Thierry would never be so tacky as to wear strong perfume, but I still sneeze as I head to the elevator. I'll have to add this to the list. The wife candidate can't wear perfume, period. By the time I get to my Park Avenue building from Victoria's West Village office, my programmers and traders are glued to their screens. Only a few of them notice as I make my way to my corner office. I'd normally stop by their desks to ask them about their weekend and get an update on our positions, but the market is already open and I can't distract them. With $92 billion of my investors' money at stake, there is no room for error. My office is huge and has a great view of the skyscrapers on Park Avenue, but I don't stop to appreciate it. Once, this office felt like the pinnacle of achievement for a scrappy kid from Staten Island, but now I'm hungry for more. Success is my drug, and with each hit, I need a bigger dose to get the buzz. It's not about the money anymore. In addition to my personal stake in the fund, I have a couple of billion stashed away in real estate and other passive investments. It's about knowing that I can do it, that I can succeed where others have failed. The recent market volatility has resulted in record losses for hedge funds and mutual funds alike, but Corelli Capital Management is up in the high teens, outperforming the market by over 40%. Foundations, pension funds, wealthy individuals, they're all tripping over each other in a rush to invest with me, and I still want more. I want it all, including a wife who'd fit the life I've worked so hard to build. On the surface, it should be easy. At 35, I have enough money to keep the female population of Manhattan in Louis Vuitton bags and Louboutin shoes for the rest of their lives. I'm not bad looking, and I work out daily to stay in shape. The latter I do more for health than vanity, but women seem to appreciate the results. I can pick up any woman in a club in a matter of minutes, but none of them are what I want. I want high class. I want elegance. I want a woman who's the complete opposite of the one who raised me, hence Victoria Longwood Thierry and her old money connections. It was my friend Ashton who pointed me in her direction. You know the kind of woman you want isn't going to be hanging out at a bar, right? He said, when after a couple of beers I mentioned my specifications for a wife. You're talking about American aristocracy here, Mayflower, and all that shit. If you're serious about tapping high-end pussy, you need to talk to my aunt's friend. She's a professional matchmaker working with politicians and rich Wall Street dudes like you. She'll find you exactly what you need. I laughed and changed the conversation, but the germ of the idea had been planted, and the more I investigated Ashton's aunt's friend, the more intrigued I became. It turns out Victoria had matched at least 2 hedge fund managers I know, one with an Olympic gymnast, the other with a Princeton biologist who once moonlighted as a model. Upon further digging, I learned that both marriages are going strong so far, and that, more than anything, convinced me to give the matchmaker a shot. I intend to be as successful in my personal life as I have been in business, and having the right kind of wife is a big part of that. Sitting down at my gleaming ebony wood desk, I turn on my Bloomberg monitor and pick up a stack of research reports. I have Victoria on the case, so I put the wife hunt out of my mind and focus on what really matters, my work and making my clients money. It's already 8 p.m. when my phone buzzes with an incoming message. Rubbing my eyes, I look away from my computer screen and see that it's a text from Victoria. I have the perfect candidate for you, the text says. She can meet you at Sweet Rush Cafe in Park Slope tomorrow at 6 p.m. If that works for you, I will email you more details. Emmeline lives in Boston and is only in town for a couple of days. I frown at my phone. 6 o'clock. I almost never leave the office that early on a Tuesday. And Boston? How am I supposed to get to know this Emmeline if she doesn't live in New York? I start texting Victoria that I can't make it, but stop at the last moment. This is what I wanted. For Victoria to introduce me to a woman I would never meet on my own. Given the matchmaker's track record, I can spare one evening to see if there's anything worth pursuing there. Before I can change my mind, I fire off a quick text to Victoria agreeing to the date and turn my attention back to my computer screen. If I'm leaving the office early tomorrow, I have to work a few more hours tonight.
Chapter 3. Emma. I'm all but bouncing with excitement as I approach Sweet Rush Cafe, where I'm supposed to meet Mark for dinner. This is the craziest thing I've done in a while. Between my evening shift at the bookstore and his class schedule, we haven't had a chance to do more than exchange a few text messages, so all I have to go on are those couple of blurry pictures. Still, I have a good feeling about this. I feel like Mark and I might really connect. I'm a few minutes early, so I stop by the door and take a moment to brush cat hair off my woolen coat. The coat is beige, which is better than black, but white hair is visible on anything that's not pure white. I figure Mark won't mind too much. He knows how much Persians shed. But I still want to look presentable for our first date. It took me about an hour, but I got my curls to semi-behave, and I'm even wearing a little makeup, something that happens with the frequency of a tsunami in a lake. Taking a deep breath, I enter the cafe and look around to see if Mark might already be there. The place is small and cozy, with booth-style seats arranged in a semicircle around a coffee bar. The smell of roasted coffee beans and baked goods is mouthwatering, making my stomach rumble with hunger. I was planning to stick to coffee only, but I decide to get a croissant too. My budget should stretch to that. Only a few of the booths are occupied, likely because it's a Tuesday. I scan them looking for anyone who could be Mark, and notice a man sitting by himself at the farthest table. He's facing away from me, so all I can see is the back of his head, but his hair is short and dark brown. It could be him. Gathering my courage, I approach the booth. "Excuse me," I say. "Are you Mark?" The man turns to face me, and my pulse shoots into the stratosphere. The person in front of me is nothing like the pictures on the app. His hair is brown and his eyes are blue, but that's the only similarity. There's nothing rounded and shy about the man's hard features. From the steely jaw to the hawk-like nose, his face is boldly masculine, stamped with a self-assurance that borders on arrogance. A hint of 5 o'clock shadow darkens his lean cheeks, making his high cheekbones stand out even more, and his eyebrows are thick dark slashes above his piercingly pale eyes. Even sitting behind the table, he looks tall and powerfully built. His shoulders are a mile wide in his sharply tailored suit, and his hands are twice the size of my own. There's no way this is Mark from the app, unless he's put in some serious gym time since those pictures were taken. Is it possible? Could a person change so much? He didn't indicate his height in the profile, but I'd assumed the omission meant he was vertically challenged, like me. The man I'm looking at is not challenged in any way, and he's certainly not wearing glasses. I'm Emma," I stutter as the man continues staring at me, his face hard and inscrutable. I'm almost certain I have the wrong guy, but I still force myself to ask, "Are you Mark by any chance?" "I prefer to be called Marcus." He shocks me by answering. His voice is a deep masculine rumble that tugs at something primitively female inside me. My heart beats even faster, and my palms begin to sweat as he rises to his feet and says bluntly, "You're not what I expected." Me? What the hell? A surge of anger crowds out all other emotions as I gape at the rude giant in front of me. The asshole is so tall I have to crane my neck to look up at him. "What about you? You look nothing like your pictures." I guess we've both been misled, he says, his jaw tight. Before I can respond, he gestures toward the booth. You might as well sit down and have a meal with me, Emmeline. I didn't come all the way here for nothing. It's Emma, I correct, fuming, and no thank you, I'll just be on my way. His nostrils flare, and he steps to the right to block my path. Sit down, Emma. He makes my name sound like an insult. I'll have a talk with Victoria, but for now, I don't see why we can't share a meal like two civilized adults. The tips of my ears burn with fury, but I slide into the booth rather than make a scene. My grandmother instilled politeness in me from an early age, and even as an adult living on my own, I find it hard to go against her teachings. She wouldn't approve of me kneeing this jerk in the balls and telling him to fuck off. Thank you, he says, sliding into the seat across from me. His eyes glint icy blue as he picks at the menu. That wasn't so hard, was it? I don't know, Marcus, I say, putting special emphasis on the formal name. I've only been around you for 2 minutes and I'm already feeling homicidal. I deliver the insult with a ladylike, grandma-approved smile, and dumping my purse in the corner of my booth seat, I pick up the menu without bothering to take off my coat. The sooner we eat, the sooner I can get out of here. A deep chuckle startles me into looking up. To my shock, the jerk is grinning, his teeth flashing white in his lightly bronzed face. No freckles for him, I note with jealousy. His skin is perfectly even-toned, without so much as an extra mole on his cheek. He's not classically handsome. His features are too bold to be described that way. But he's shockingly good-looking in a potent, purely masculine way. To my dismay, a curl of heat licks at my core, making my inner muscles clench. No way. This asshole is not turning me on. I can barely stand to sit across the table from him. Gritting my teeth, I look down at my menu, noting with relief that the prices in this place are actually reasonable. I always insist on paying for my own food on dates, and now that I've met Marcus, I wouldn't put it past him to drag me to some ritzy place where a glass of tap water costs more than a shot of Patron. How could I have been so wrong about the guy? Clearly, he'd lied about working in a bookstore and being a student. To what end, I don't know, but everything about the man in front of me screams wealth and power. His pinstriped suit hugs his broad-shouldered frame like it was tailor-made for him. His blue shirt is crisply starched, and I'm pretty sure his subtly checkered tie is some designer brand that makes Chanel seem like a Walmart label. As all of these details register, a new suspicion occurs to me. Could someone be playing a joke on me? Kendall, perhaps? Or Janie? They both know my taste in guys. Maybe one of them decided to lure me on a date this way, though why they'd set me up with him and he'd agreed to it is a huge mystery. Frowning, I look up from the menu and study the man in front of me. He's stopped grinning and is perusing the menu, his forehead creased in a frown that makes him look older than the 27 years listed on his profile. That part must have also been a lie. My anger intensifies. So, Marcus, why did you write to me? Dropping the menu on the table, I glare at him. Do you even own cats? He looks up, his frown deepening. Cats? No, of course not. The derision in his tone makes me want to forget all about Grandma's disapproval and slap him straight across his lean, hard face. Is this some kind of a prank for you? Who put you up to this? Excuse me? His thick eyebrows rise in an arrogant arch. Oh, stop playing innocent. You lied in your message to me, and you have the gall to say I'm not what you expected? I can practically feel the steam coming out of my ears. You messaged me, and I was entirely truthful on my profile. How old are you? 32? 33? I'm 35, he says slowly, his frown returning. Emma, what are you talking? That's it. Grabbing my purse by one strap, I slide out of the booth and jump to my feet. Grandma's teachings or not, I'm not going to have a meal with a jerk who's admitted to deceiving me. I have no idea what would make a guy like that want to toy with me, but I'm not going to be the butt of some joke. Enjoy your meal, I snarl, spinning around, and stride to the exit before he can block my way again. I'm in such a rush to leave, I almost knock over a tall, slender brunette approaching the cafe and the short, pudgy guy following her.
Chapter 4. Marcus. Gripping the edge of the table, I watched the little redhead fly out of the restaurant, her curvy ass swaying from side to side. Even in the shapeless woolen coat, her small, lush figure is unmistakably feminine and bizarrely sexy. I've never particularly liked curvy women, but the moment Emma came up to me, my hormones shot into overdrive and my cock turned rock hard. If I hadn't been wearing a suit, it would have been downright embarrassing. As it was, all of my social graces deserted me as soon as I laid eyes on her. With her wild red curls and Salvation Army sense of style, Emma was so unlike the images in my mind, and so strangely appealing despite that fact, that I straight up told her she wasn't what I'd expected. As soon as the words left my mouth, I wanted to take them back, but it was too late. Her clear gray eyes narrowed, her rosebud mouth tightened, and her flame-bright hair seemed to puff up, each curl quivering with indignation. Then she retorted that I looked different from my pictures, and things escalated from there. I don't remember the last time I've been less than polite with a woman, but with Emma, it was as if I'd turned into a caveman. I all but ordered her to join me, going so far as to use my size to intimidate her into complying. Why did Victoria send her to me? If she did, that is. Now that all the blood isn't rushing to my groin, the redhead's behavior strikes me as extremely odd. Her accusations and ramblings about cats make zero sense, unless there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Shit. I slide out of the booth to follow the woman, but before I can take 2 steps, a tall, elegant brunette steps into my path. "Hi, Marcus," she says with a cool, graceful smile. "I'm Emmeline Summers. Sorry I'm late." Even before she says her name, I know who she is, and I know I fucked up big. This is the woman Victoria was talking about, the one whose file I didn't have a chance to download before getting called into an emergency meeting with my portfolio managers. Victoria sent Emmeline's pictures and bio to me this afternoon, and between the meeting and taking the subway to avoid rush hour traffic, I showed up at the cafe completely unprepared, something I'd normally never do. I figured it wasn't a big deal. I'd just confess my unpreparedness to Emmeline, and we'd have a good time getting to know one another. But I didn't count on a similarly named woman who, by some bizarre coincidence, must have also come to the cafe on a blind date with a guy who shares my name. What were the fucking odds of that? Staring at the brunette in front of me, I can't believe I mistook Emma for her. No 2 women could be more different. Emmeline is Princess Diana, Jackie Kennedy, and Giselle all rolled up into one stunning package. I can easily picture her at the social functions and political events that are increasingly a part of my life. She'd know which fork to use and how to make small talk with senators and waiters alike, while Emma, well, I can see her bouncing on my dick, and that's about it. Pushing the pornographic images out of my mind, I smile at the tall brunette. "No problem," I say, reaching out to shake her hand. "I only got here a few minutes ago myself. It's a pleasure meeting you." Emmeline's fingers are long and slim, her skin cool and dry to the touch. "Same here," she says, squeezing my hand with just the right amount of pressure before gracefully lowering her arm. "Thank you for coming all the way out here to meet with me. My sister is a student at the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music, so I'm staying in the area until my flight tomorrow morning." "Of course. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me," I say as we sit down at the table. For the next few minutes, we make small talk and get to know one another. I don't say anything about the mix-up with Emma. I don't need Emmeline thinking I'm a total idiot. But I do explain that I didn't have a chance to review the file Victoria sent me. As I'd hoped, Emmeline waves away my apologies, saying that it's just as well that we can get to know each other without preconceived notions. It's obvious, however, that she's gone through her file on me. She knows everything about me, from my Wharton MBA to my current role as head of one of the most successful hedge funds in New York City. After we place our order with the waiter, I learn that Emmeline is 31 years old and a graduate of Harvard Law. For the past 3 years, she's headed a nonprofit foundation providing legal services for abused women and children. She's passionate about her work and spends over 80 hours a week on the foundation. It's not just a hobby for her, though her family is wealthy enough that she could have done absolutely anything career-wise, or nothing. My great-great-grandfather made a fortune in railroads way back when, she says, smiling. And my family has somehow managed to retain and grow it over the past century and a half. So yes, I'm one of those trust fund babies. Her smile holds a self-deprecating charm that softens the aristocratic lines of her face, and I find myself genuinely liking her. Emmeline is the real deal, the woman I've been hoping to meet ever since I decided to set my sights on yet another marker of success, the ultimate trophy wife. As the waiter brings out our food, we discuss everything from world events to the recent volatility in the market, and I find that Emmeline's views closely align with my own. She's knowledgeable and thoughtful in her opinions, her legal training evident in her well-reasoned approach to most issues. I enjoy listening to her, and she seems interested in what I have to say as well. It also doesn't hurt that she's beautiful to look at in a sleek, thoroughbred kind of way. Her long-sleeved sweater dress is stylish without being trendy, her accessories are expensive but understated, and her smooth dark hair is cut in flattering layers around her perfectly oval face. She's a strikingly attractive woman, yet as I observe the graceful way she holds her fork, it suddenly dawns on me that I'm not attracted to her. I like the way she looks, but it's the same kind of appreciation I might have for a visually pleasing piece of art or sculpture, a purely intellectual pleasure that's the complete opposite of my visceral reaction to the redhead. No, stop. Before my mind can travel further down that path, I force all thoughts of Emma away. Emmeline is the woman I've always wanted, and I can't fuck it up by following the urgings of my suddenly unruly cock. For a while, I succeed in focusing solely on Emmeline. She's a good conversationalist, and as we eat, we exchange amusing stories about school and work. I tell her about the trader in my fund who wears orange sneakers as a good luck charm, and she tells me about her sister's penchant for dating long-haired hipster boys. Midway through the meal, I have to excuse myself to take an important call from work, and she doesn't bat an eye at that. Nor does she look the least bit put off when I have to fire off a few urgent emails upon returning to the table. It's obvious she understands the demands of a high-pressure job like mine. Still, I apologize, and she laughs it off, explaining that her father, a high-powered corporate attorney, hadn't gotten through a single dinner during her childhood without a work emergency of some kind. We chat about her family for a while. They're all as successful as she is, and then we return to more serious topics, like the political climate and what it means for the global economy. It's when we're in the middle of discussing the new mayor, whom Emmeline knows personally, that she glances at the corner of the booth and says, "Oh, look, someone forgot a phone here." My pulse leaps with inexplicable excitement. A phone? Emmeline nods and holds up a smartphone in a battered pink case. "I found it in the corner of the seat. Here, let me go give it to our waiter." She moves to slide out of her seat, but before she can get up, I reach over and snatch the phone from her hand. "No need." I fight to keep my voice even as I pocket the device. "I know who this belongs to. There was a woman sitting here before us. It must have fallen out of her bag. I'll make sure it gets back to her." "You will?" A frown creases Emmeline's smooth brow. She's confused by my behavior, and she's not the only one. "I'll have my assistant take care of it," I lie. "She's good at stuff like that." That last part is true. Lynette is highly resourceful, but there's no way I'm getting her involved. I want to return this phone personally. No, I need to return it. The urge is practically a compulsion. I have to see the redhead again, if only so I can confirm that my insane attraction to her was a fluke, and she's not nearly as appealing as my dick remembers. "Okay, if you're sure." Emmeline is still looking at me like I lost my mind, so I give her my most engaging smile and shift the conversation back to the mayor. My pulse is hammering with anticipation at the thought of tracking down Emma, but I'm not about to fuck things up with Emmeline. Once I return this phone, Emma will be off my mind, and I'll be able to focus on what I really want: a wife who will be as big of an achievement as the billions in my bank account.
Chapter 5. Emma. Asshole, jerk, sleazeball liar. Fuming, I stomped down the street, barely cognizant of the pedestrians getting out of my way. I can't remember the last time I've been so mad. My blood is all but boiling in my veins. How dare he write to me with a fake profile and then act like I'm a disappointment? Okay, so maybe I did put up my more flattering pictures on the dating app, but what woman doesn't? It's not like I used someone else's photos or even particularly old photos. The 2 pictures I uploaded were taken less than a year ago, when I was actually a few pounds heavier than I am now. So if anything, I look better now, or skinnier at least. In any case, I don't see how he could have been disappointed by my physique. I'd even put my height and weight in the profile. And the cat thing? What the hell was that about? Why would he claim to love cats and then act like I'd confessed to having the plague? In general, why would a man like that, good-looking and obviously successful, want to mess with a random girl from a dating app? I'm so angry I make it to the subway and onto the train on autopilot. It's not until I'm a couple of stops away from my station that my temper cools enough for me to go over what happened without choking with fury. Taking a calming breath, I review the facts. Key point number 1. The man at the cafe insisted that I call him Marcus instead of Mark, though he wrote to me as Mark. Key point number 2. He turned out to be 35 years old with no cats, and he looked nothing like the blurry pictures in his profile. As I put those facts together and analyze them without the jerk's proximity scrambling my brain, an embarrassing possibility occurs to me. Could I have approached the wrong man after all? Emmeline, he'd called me. Is it possible? Could he have been meeting someone by that name and mistaken me for her? The odds of Mark/Marcus and Emma/Emmeline on a blind date in the same place are slim, to say the least. But weirder things have happened. When Grandma met Gramps for the first time, he mistook her for one of his cousins and decided to prank her by dunking her in a pond, where a neighbor's secretly kept alligator promptly latched onto her foot. Grandma still has scars from that incident, and Gramps looks guilty whenever Grandma recounts that story, which is often. So yeah, crazy stuff happens, and just because something isn't likely doesn't mean it's impossible. Going by that logic, it's entirely possible that Marcus is not a total asshole. He's just not Mark. Groaning mentally, I snake my hand into my purse and rummage around for my phone. If I'm right, I probably have an email or a text from the real Mark, wondering where I am and why I stood him up. It takes a full minute of rummaging for me to realize that I'm not finding the phone. My heartbeat spikes and a sick feeling twists my stomach. No, please no. My hands shaking, I dump the contents of my bag onto an empty seat next to me and survey them in horror. On the plastic orange seat next to me are a worn leather wallet, a few wadded-up tissues, a green scrunchie, a bottle of Tylenol, my apartment keys, a laser pointer, and an ancient pack of bubblegum. But no phone in a bright pink case. Not even a hint of a phone. I must have lost it somewhere. Tears spring to my eyes, blurring my vision as I stuff everything back into my purse. I know that in the grand scheme of things, losing a phone is not a big deal. If Gramps saw me so upset over a thing, he'd give me a stern talking to and remind me about what really matters: family, health, and doing what you love. And while I know all of that to be true, I simply can't afford that kind of hit to my bank account right now. A couple of my regular editing clients ran into some difficulties with their latest novels, so I haven't had a lengthy editing gig since the summer, leaving me with only my bookstore cashier's salary to live on. Normally, that would suffice. I know how to stretch a penny. But between the interest rate spike on my student loans and the vet bill for Cotton Ball's scratched nose 2 weeks ago, my account is a few dollars away from an overdraft fee. I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck, and a new phone is not something I can afford. Stop whining, Emma, and think. Where could you have lost the phone? I can practically hear Gramps saying that to me, so I suck in a deep breath and push away my panic. I tend to get over-emotional. It's the Irish in me, Grandma says. And I need to get a grip on myself. Freaking out won't solve anything. Ignoring the stares from the other passengers on the train, I get down on all fours and peer under my seat on the off chance that the phone fell out at some point during the train ride. Nothing, or at least nothing resembling my phone. There are gum wrappers and weird sticky-looking stains, but that's not what I'm after. I get back on my seat and rub my hands together to brush off the floor cooties. The panic is bubbling up again, but I push it away and concentrate on mentally retracing my steps. Did I have my phone with me on the ride to the cafe? Yes, I remember playing Angry Birds during the subway ride. Did I have it when I got out of the subway? Yes, I used Google Maps to guide me from the subway to the cafe. Did I check it at the restaurant? No, I was too occupied with a jerk. Did I check it when I left the restaurant? No, I was too busy fuming about the jerk, plus I remembered where the subway was without needing to check the maps. The mental Q&A calms me a bit, as does the realization that I must have lost the phone at some point between the cafe and now. Maybe if I'm really lucky, it's still in the cafe, and if I go back, I'll be able to find it. Thus resolved, I get off the train at the next stop and go across the platform to get the one heading in the opposite direction. It takes a solid 20 minutes before it comes. Stupid MTA with its endless delays. But finally, I'm on the train heading back to the cafe. I still haven't had dinner, so I'm both tired and hungry, but I'm determined. If my phone is at that cafe, I'm getting it back. I can't let this date from hell become a complete disaster.
Chapter 6. Marcus. I know it's not the best thing for my future relationship with Emmeline, but as soon as we're done eating, I order an Uber instead of inviting her out for drinks. I use her morning flight to Boston to justify the early end of our date, but in reality, I'm anxious to begin my search for the redhead. As ridiculous as it is, I need to return that phone. The Uber ride to Emmeline's hotel takes about a half hour in traffic. I come out of the car to open the door for her and walk her to the hotel entrance, where I give her a gentlemanly peck on the cheek and promise to call her. It's a promise I fully intend to keep. Emmeline is what I want, after all, but tonight I need to get away from her. I have to locate Emma and rid myself of this budding obsession. The moment Emmeline disappears through the revolving hotel doors, I step to the side and pull out the pink phone. It's an older Android model, and fortunately, there is no password required to unlock the screen. I start by pulling up the pictures to make sure that it is, in fact, Emma's phone. At first, all I find are snapshots of fluffy white cats. How many does she have? But soon, I come across a smiling selfie of a redhead in a tank top and loose pajama pants. It's Emma, all right. My heartbeat speeds up, and my suit pants suddenly feel tight. There's nothing in that picture that's meant to be seductive. She's sitting with her knees pulled up to her chest, so I can't even see the shape of her breasts. But something about the pale curves of her shoulders, the scattering of freckles across her nose, and the dimples in her cheeks makes me harder than an iron rod. Fuck, what am I doing? Lowering the phone, I lean back against the outside wall of the hotel and squeeze my eyes shut. There's something seriously wrong with me today. I never act impulsively or irrationally, yet I just cut short a date with the woman of my dreams and let her go back to her hotel room without so much as an attempt to kiss her, all so I could chase after a girl who is the complete opposite of what I need. Maybe I should have my assistant return the phone to Emma. If I had such a strong reaction to her picture, it's probably not a good idea for me to see her in person again. Opening my eyes, I look at the pink phone again. Emma's softly rounded face, framed by a halo of wild red curls, looks back at me, her gray eyes full of mischief. Mischief and something so warm and seductive, I can't help reacting to it. Something I can't help wanting. Staring at that picture, I understand for the first time how powerful the lure of temptation can be. Smoking, drugs, unhealthy foods, laziness, those have never been my vices. My self-discipline is legendary among my friends and colleagues. Once I set my mind on something, I do it, and I don't let anything stand in my way. Whether it's running a marathon in 2.5 hours or graduating from college in 2.5 years, I'm able to set goals and achieve them. And I've never understood people who say they want to do something but lack the willpower to make it happen. Yet here I am, staring at a selfie of a woman I know would be bad for me. She's chocolate and lazy days on the couch, Netflix binging, and a pack of cigarettes. She's everything I can't have and shouldn't want, an unhealthy temptation that can ruin everything. The smart thing to do would be to go home and hand over this phone to Lynette first thing in the morning. That way, I can get a good night's sleep and call Emmeline tomorrow to set a time for us to meet again, maybe even arrange a trip to her hometown of Boston. That's the smart thing to do, but I don't do it. Instead, my hand seems to move of its own accord as my fingers swipe across the screen to get the contacts icon. My heart thuds in a heavy, expectant rhythm as I scroll through the list of names until I get to H, where I find the entry called Home. Sure enough, there is an address there. When I pull out my own phone and type it into Google Maps, I see that it's in Bay Ridge, a neighborhood in Brooklyn that's not too far from here. If I hurry, I'll make it there before it's late enough for my visit to be creepy. Giving in to temptation for the first time in my adult life, I order another Uber to Emma's address in Bay Ridge. It's not so bad, I tell myself as I get in the car. Once I get rid of this phone, I'll forget the little redhead once and for all. I won't let this strange new weakness of mine ruin what I've worked so hard to build.
Chapter 7. Emma. You didn't find anything? It's in a pink case. I can't hide the disappointment in my voice, and the waiter gives me a sympathetic look. No, sorry, he says. Wish I could help. The couple who were sitting there just left, and they didn't say anything about a phone. Do you mind if I take a look around the table? I ask, glancing over at the booth where I'd approached Marcus, who may or may not be an asshole, depending on his true identity. Sure, go ahead, the waiter says. I walk over to the booth, trying not to think about the man who'd sat there, but I'm not entirely successful. For some reason, my skin feels uncomfortably warm, and my breathing picks up as I picture his cool blue eyes and big hands. And if his hands are that size, how big is his... No, stop. Focus on the phone. With effort, I push away the graphic images flooding my mind and crouch to peer under the table. Nothing. I look all over the seats next. Nothing. Disappointment presses down on me, making my empty stomach roil with anxiety. I didn't see the phone on the street as I was retracing my steps, and if it's not in the restaurant, then it's well and truly lost. Maybe even stolen, in which case the phone tracking app on my computer, which I was planning to check as the next step, would not help either. Exhausted and dispirited, I trudge back to the subway. At this point, I'm almost lightheaded from hunger, so I buy a banana from a street vendor. I can still afford that, and munch on it as I go down the steps to the train. All I want is to get home, take a hot shower, and curl up with my cats. This day is officially a disaster. I'm never, ever using a dating app again.
Chapter 8. Marcus. Where the hell is she? Standing by the side entrance of an ugly old brownstone, I ring the doorbell for the second time, with the same lack of results. Emma Walsh is not home. I know her last name thanks to her Facebook profile, which I accessed by tapping on the Facebook icon on her phone. According to that same profile, she's single, which I already suspected, 26 years old, and a graduate of Brooklyn College. She loves books and does freelance editing when she's not working at a small family-owned bookstore. Oh, and she definitely owns cats, 3 of them, judging by her frequent posts about them on Facebook. Knowing all this about a woman I met by accident makes me feel like a stalker, a feeling that's only exacerbated by my inexplicable desire to learn more. I played a bit with her phone on the way here to make sure I had the right address, I told myself, and in the process, I've looked at everything from her photos to her email. I didn't read any of the email because that would have been really wrong, but I did glance at the subject lines. It seems like most of her inbox is occupied by messages related to her editing jobs, though there are a bunch of emails from someone named Kindle, too. Same goes for texts, though most of those are from Grandma and Gramps, who I'm guessing are her grandparents. Fuck, I am being a stalker. Disgusted with myself, I turn to leave so I can give the phone to my assistant tomorrow and forget this madness. But at that moment, a small, shapely figure with curly hair approaches from the street and freezes in place, her hands flying up to grab at the strap of her cheap purse. In a flash, it dawns on me how I must look to Emma, with my features cast in shadow by the tiny light hanging over the door. If I were a young woman confronted by an unknown 6'3" man on her doorstep in the dark, I'd probably be shitting my pants right about now. It's me, Marcus, I say quickly, wanting to reassure her. I might have acted like a stalker, but I don't mean her any harm. From the cafe, remember? She takes a step back, still gripping her purse strap. What? What are you doing here? She sounds breathless. I must have really scared her. How did you find me? Your phone, I explain, pulling the pink smartphone out of my pocket. I found it in the booth after you left and wanted to return it to you. Oh, she approaches uncertainly. As the over-the-door light illuminates her pale face, I see that her expression is a mix of relief and confusion. Stopping a couple of feet away, she says in a slightly calmer voice, Thank you. I was looking for that phone. I was almost home when I realized that I didn't have it, so I went back to the cafe and the waiter said they didn't find anything and, cutting herself off, she takes a deep breath and says, I'm really glad you found it, but you didn't have to come all the way here. I could have just met you somewhere tomorrow or... It's not that far out of my way, I say. It's a lie, but I'm not about to admit the full extent of my insanity. I figured you might worry, so I brought it. She stares up at me, her gray eyes dark in the evening shadows. Oh, okay, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. She extends her hand, and I give her the phone. She's careful to take it in such a way that our fingers don't touch, something I irrationally resent. Even worse, the moment the phone is out of my hands, I regret giving it to her so quickly. That phone was the only thing linking us together, and now I have no reason to be here, except my inexplicable desire to get to know her. Emma, listen, I say as she pockets the phone with evident relief. I think I made a mistake earlier at the cafe. You were supposed to meet someone named Emmeline? A small smile appears on her lips, and I realize she's figured it out too. That's right. I grin at her. Let me guess, you were supposed to meet Mark? Yep. Her smile widens, exposing small white teeth and the same cute dimples I saw on the selfie. What are the odds, right? I can have one of my analysts look into that if you want, I say, only half kidding. Researching the answer to her rhetorical question would give me an excuse to stay in touch, something I badly want. With that dimpled smile, the little redhead looks so fucking adorable, I want to lick her like an ice cream cone. I'm sure we can figure it out if we run some statistics on naming trends in the population, I add. Emma blinks, her smile dimming. One of your analysts? Do you run a think tank or something? A hedge fund, I say. We employ a multitude of strategies to stay ahead of the market, everything from traditional equity analysis to quant-driven trading. The dimples disappear completely. Oh, I see. She looks disappointed, a reaction that's the complete opposite from the one I get when women realize I must have some serious dough. Pasting on a new, less sincere smile, she says, Thanks again for returning the phone, Marcus. I really appreciate you coming all the way out here. If you'll excuse me. She gives me an expectant look, and I realize I'm still standing on her doorstep, blocking the door. I should move. That would be the polite, gentlemanly thing to do, but I don't. Instead, I ask bluntly, "Do you hate Wall Street or something?" I know I'm borderline harassing the girl, but I can't let her go like this. Once she gets into her apartment, a shithole place judging by the rundown state of the door, it'll all be over. She'll go about her life, and I'll return to mine, and I'm not ready for that to happen. No, I don't have anything against your profession. I mean, not really. She gives me a wary look. She inhales. Look, Marcus, I really appreciate the gesture and all, but I'm hungry and exhausted, and I still need to feed my cats and answer some emails. We can debate Wall Street ethics some other time. Some other time? Something tense inside me relaxes. Though she undoubtedly meant her words as a polite brush-off, I'm going to take them at face value. I'm going to see Emma again and figure out what it is that draws me to her. Stepping aside, I say, "Sounds good. Good night, Emma. It was a pleasure meeting you." "Same here. Goodbye, Marcus, and thanks again," she says, pulling her keys out of her purse as she steps around me. I watch her open the door, making sure she gets inside safely, and when the door closes behind her, I order another Uber and make a note on my phone about the next steps. My pulse is thrumming with excitement, and my muscles are coiled tight in anticipation of the new challenge. I'm acting completely unlike myself, but I no longer care. Emma might not be what I need for the long term, but she's what I want for the moment, and for the first time in my life, I'm going to live in the present. I'm going to have the lush little redhead for dessert and worry about consequences later.
Chapter 9. Emma. My legs are shaking as I make it into my apartment and hang up my coat by the door. Whatever little energy I got from eating the banana is long gone, and I'm all but passing out from hunger. Despite that, I have this strange sensation that I'm floating on air, my heart racing from the after effects of adrenaline and dizzying excitement. Marcus, tall, arrogant Marcus with his perfectly tailored suit and a coat that costs more than my quarterly rent, came to my apartment and returned my phone. It seems impossible, surreal, yet it clearly happened, as I'm holding said phone in my hand. He gave it to me, and now instead of worrying about the hit to my bank account, I'm unsettled for a completely different reason. My breathing is panic attack fast, my palms are sweating, and I feel so wired I could bounce off the walls despite my exhaustion. Holy fucking shit. Marcus came to my apartment. When I first saw him standing there looking like some kind of caped villain in his unbuttoned, knee-length winter coat, I thought he was a burglar and nearly had a heart attack. Because why else would someone be lurking on my doorstep so late in the evening? I was a second away from screaming my head off and sprinting away when he spoke. And then my knees went weak for a different reason. The man who was on my mind all through the subway ride home, the man I was convinced I'd never see again, was by my door, being the complete opposite of an asshole. Right now, I'm too tired and hyper to figure out what that whole encounter meant, so I don't even try. Instead, I focus on my cats, who are all rushing toward me, meowing loudly. Mr. Puffs, as the biggest, pushes Queen Elizabeth and Cotton Ball out of the way and stakes his claim on me by winding his giant furry body between my legs as I attempt to make my way to the kitchen. "Stop it, Puffs," I order, but he ignores me, rubbing himself on my calves to mark his territory. His siblings follow in a calmer fashion. As usual, they let Mr. Puffs be the annoying one. "Oh, come on, just give me a second," I say in exasperation, nearly tripping over his tail. "I'm getting you food, I promise." Cotton Ball lets out a loud meow at the mention of food, and Queen Elizabeth joins in with her softer, more delicate voice. Even when hungry, she sounds like a lady. When I finally make it into my tiny kitchen, I grab 3 cans of cat food and open them, putting their contents on 3 individual plates. My cats are very particular about their food, so I'm careful to put on each plate the precise flavor and brand that cat prefers. Queen Elizabeth likes Fancy Feast wild salmon. Cotton Ball likes variety, so he's getting the Chicken Feast classic today. And Mr. Puffs has developed a taste for Purina seafood stew entree. Once Puffs finishes his portion, he'll eat some of Queen Elizabeth's and Cotton Ball's too. But he has to start with his own plate. I suspect it's because he feels more like the boss that way. As soon as I put the plates on the floor, the cats dive in, and I'm free to feed myself. Fortunately, I got my bookstore paycheck on Monday, so my fridge is full. I have fruits, vegetables, bread, and some deli meats, so I slap together a quick sandwich and devour it while standing in the kitchen. Then, feeling infinitely more human, I check to see if I got any messages from the real Mark. To my disappointment, the answer is no. He must have taken offense to being stood up and decided to forego all contact with me. Though I'm exhausted, I write him a quick email with an apology and explanation about the mix-up, and then I finally head to the shower. I have to rinse off the city grime before I get into bed. By thinking about ways to get new editing clients, I manage to keep my mind off Marcus all through the shower. It's only when I'm lying under the covers, surrounded by my cats, that I realize I'm still far too hyper to sleep. It's as if an electric current is buzzing under my skin, keeping my heart rate elevated and my body uncomfortably warm. Marcus was waiting by my door when I came home. He came all the way here to return my phone. It still feels unreal, partially because it's hard to believe he went to such trouble just to be nice. Though our meeting in the cafe was brief, Marcus didn't strike me as much of a good Samaritan, nor is his choice of profession indicative of a man who's particularly altruistic. I was an English major in college, but I know several finance majors who went to work on Wall Street after graduation, and all of them are highly ambitious, driven to maximize their productivity and monetize, their terminology, not mine, every hour of their time. They're type A in the extreme, and if Marcus runs his own hedge fund, he must be that times 100. It doesn't make sense for a man like that to spend his limited free time returning a phone to a stranger, not unless he had some other agenda. Only I can't think of what that agenda might have been. Unless, could he have been hoping I'd reward him financially? Crap, I didn't think about it, but I should have probably offered him some money for his trouble. For a moment, I feel awful, but then I remember his suit and coat, not to mention his Italian leather shoes, and my guilt fades. I doubt Marcus needs my $20, certainly not enough to go out of his way to get them. So why did he come? My phone doesn't require a password to unlock, so he could have just emailed me from my own email, and I would have picked up the device from wherever Marcus told me to meet him. Hell, he could have had one of his analysts, say the one he was planning to task with researching the odds of our meeting, return the phone on his behalf. The only other explanation that occurs to me is so ridiculous that I dismiss it right away. There's no way he's interested in me in that way. I'm not particularly insecure about my looks. I got over that in college. But I am realistic. I know I'm nowhere near Marcus's league. He undoubtedly has gorgeous women falling all over themselves for the privilege of decorating his arm. He wouldn't need to go after a short, frizzy-haired redhead with 2 wide hips. Besides, wasn't he meeting someone? This Emmeline that he mistook me for? With a fancy name like that, I bet her hips are in perfect proportion to her body, and her hair magically behaves at all times. Okay, maybe that last bit is complete conjecture, but still, I'm almost certain I'm not Marcus's type. So why did he come tonight? The question torments me as I toss and turn, trying to get comfortable enough to fall asleep. It's only when Mr. Puffs lies down on top of my head, pinning me in place, that I'm able to drift off. My dreams that night are filled with big, hard-faced burglars in capes. And sex.
Chapter 10. Marcus. You want me to do what? Lynette gapes at me, her round tortoiseshell glasses sliding down her long nose. I want you to send flowers and some cat food to the address I emailed you, I repeat, frowning at my assistant. Is that a problem? No, of course not. Lynette quickly regroups, her professional mask falling into place. Do you have a preference when it comes to the type of flowers and the brand of the cat food? Roses, pink and white, I say. At least a dozen of each. No, make that 2 dozen of each. As far as the cat food, I don't know. What do cats like? Depends on the cat, I think, Lynette says, sounding more like her efficient self. Some owners feed their cats only wet canned food. Others do a mix of wet and dry. Do you happen to know about the cat in question? Cats, plural, I correct. And no, I don't. Why don't you do this? Get a variety of cat food brands, both wet and dry, and send them with the flowers. I'll email you the note to add. Okay, I'm on it. Lynette turns her attention to her monitor, her long fingers flying over her keyboard. I have no doubt she's going to send the best cat food and the freshest flowers money can buy. Lynette knows my predilection for high-quality products. I like the best in all things, and I don't accept compromises. Speaking of the best, I glance at my watch. No, it's still too early for Emmeline's flight to have landed. Pulling out my phone, I set a reminder to call her later this afternoon and head toward my office. I have 5 meetings and 24 research reports to get through before lunch, but all I can think about is Emma. Fuck. I'll have to make sure I have my red-headed dessert this week so I can forget her and move on with my life.
Chapter 11. Emma. Here you go, Mr. Roberts, I say, handing the wizened old man a stack of paperbacks. You'll enjoy these, I'm sure. Oh, I have no doubt. He beams at me, showing 2 missing teeth in the front. I love this series. So glad you recommended this author to me. I've loved all her books so far. I grin back at him. I'm happy to hear that. She's my favorite science fiction writer. Mine too now, he says, and we share a moment. That perfect moment of connection with someone who appreciates the same books you do. It's moments like these that keep me working at Smithson Books, despite low pay and no chance of advancement. Well, moments like these and my love of physical books. Just being in this little bookstore, surrounded by shelves of paperbacks and hardbacks, lifts my mood. I like ebooks too, but there's nothing quite like the smell and feel of printed paper. Each time we get a shipment in, I feel like a kid with a brand new toy. All right then, Mr. Roberts says, putting his paperbacks into a canvas bag. You take care now, dear. Say hello to those cats for me. I will, thank you. A few months ago, I showed Mr. Roberts my cat's pictures on the phone, and since then he's mentioned them every time he sees me. Come to think of it, he's not the only one. Most of the regulars at the bookstore know about my fur babies and ask about them often. I am a cat lady. Hey, Emma, how's it going? Edward Smithson's voice pulls me out of my thoughts, and I turn to see my boss ambling toward me. Walking next to him is a guy I've never seen before. Blonde, geeky looking, and a little on the short side. He's wearing rimless glasses and appears to be about my age. I'm good, Mr. Smithson. How about you? I respond, smiling at my boss. He's one of the nicest people I know. Yet another reason why I haven't quit this job. Oh, still sticking to the diet. He pats his massive belly, and I suppress a laugh. As far as I can tell, his diet consists of cookies and donuts, eaten when his wife isn't looking, of course. Stopping a few feet from me, Mr. Smithson says, Emma, I'd like you to meet my nephew, Ian. He turns to the blonde guy. Ian, this is Emma, the girl I was telling you about. It's nice to meet you, Ian, I say, smiling at the nephew. What brings you to our bookstore? I just moved to the city, he says, his Adam's apple bobbing as his neck turns bright red. I like books, so Uncle Ed wanted to show me a store. Of course. I give him my warmest smile. I know what it's like to be socially awkward, so I always try to be kind to shy people. Would you like me to give you the tour? That would be great, Mr. Smithson says, sounding far too enthusiastic, and I suddenly realize why Ian is here. My boss is matchmaking. Now it's my turn to blush. To hide the color spreading over my face, I crouch and pretend to tie my sneaker. I don't know how I feel about this, especially the part where Ian is the boss's nephew. It could get really awkward if anything goes wrong, and despite the crappy pay, I really like this job. Oh well, I'll have to do my best to be friendly and only friendly. When I'm sure that I no longer resemble a beat, I rise to my feet and smile at Ian. Ready for the tour? The tour, such as it is, takes less than 10 minutes. The bookstore is only a little larger than my studio, with a back area dedicated to a row of armchairs where our patrons like to lounge, and the front populated by shelves stocked with all genres of popular fiction. We're not big on literary fiction or classics, the boring stuff, as Mr. Smithson calls it, but we have a huge selection of science fiction, fantasy, thrillers, mysteries, and romance novels. It's our way of making sure our customers aren't tempted to go online to get the books they actually like to read. As I show all this to Ian, we make small talk, and I find out that he's an aspiring urban fantasy author. I discreetly slip in that I do freelance editing, and his eyes light up when I tell him my very reasonable rates. Are you going to self-publish or go the traditional route? I ask as we return to the counter where Mr. Smithson is handling the customers in my stead. I'm leaning towards self-publishing, Ian answers. He seems much less shy now that we're discussing his passion. Uncle Ed thinks I should query agents first, but I'm tempted to just put it out there and see how it does. That's probably smart, I say, smiling. But then again, I'm biased. Most of my editing clients these days are independent authors, so I obviously want as many of you around as possible. Ian laughs, and Mr. Smithson gives us a pleased smile as he rings up an old lady's purchase. Oops. I hope my boss doesn't think we're hitting it off in some way other than editor and potential client. Though Ian is the type of guy I normally go for, sweet, nerdy, and a little shy, I'm not the least bit attracted to him. As I wonder why that is, images of icy blue eyes and lean, hard jaw invade my mind, along with graphic details from my dreams last night. No way. I push the images away before my face turns red again. I refuse to believe that my lack of attraction to Ian has anything to do with Marcus. I still don't know why the hedge fund manager returned my phone in person yesterday, but I'm certain he's forgotten all about me by now, and I need to forget all about him. I'm not attracted to Ian, and that's all there is to it. It's for the best, really. I like Mr. Smithson's nephew as a person, and I hope to edit his book someday, but that's as far as it should ever go. To discourage any further matchmaking attempts by my boss, I tell Ian to ping me when he has his book ready, and then I hurry to relieve Mr. Smithson of the cashier duty. I need to embrace my cat ladiness because this dating stuff is way too complex for me. It's sleeting again when I exit the subway, and I curse my bad luck as I rush home. I can't recall a worse November. It's still early in the month, but it's already snowed once, with icy rain falling on at least 2 other occasions, almost as if we were in January. My phone vibrates in my pocket as I turn the corner, and I almost ignore it because I don't want to expose my ears, currently covered by the collar of my coat, to the sleeting rain. However, a long-ingrained habit makes me reach into my pocket and pull out the phone to glance at the screen. Sure enough, it's a call I can't miss. "Grandma, hi," I say, raising the phone to my ear. Without me holding up the collar, the coat falls back to my shoulders, exposing my neck to the sleeting rain, and I shudder as the icy water trickles inside. I should have worn my old moth-eaten scarf today, but it's so ugly that I couldn't bring myself to do it, and now I'm paying for that moment of vanity. I really need to buy myself a new scarf and keep it away from Mr. Puff's. "Hi, sweetheart." Grandma's voice is warm and gentle, her southern drawl noticeable despite several decades spent living in Brooklyn. "How are you?" "I'm doing great," I say, making my voice as cheerful as I can. With the icy raindrops pelting my face and getting inside my collar, I'm perfectly miserable, but Grandma doesn't need to know that. "How are you and Gramps?" "Oh, we're good. Your grandfather is gardening in the heat again. I told him not to go out there when it's 80 degrees, but he won't listen to me." "Yeah, that's Gramps for you," I say, feeling jealous. I'd kill for 80-degree weather instead of this hellish cold. My grandparents moved to Florida when I graduated from college, and now every time I speak to them, I hear all about how nice and hot it is over there. "You should lure him in with some chocolate chip cookies." Grandma laughs. How did you know I was making those? Just a lucky guess, I say, shivering as a particularly strong gust of wind slaps my face. How did your blood test go last week? All clear. I'm healthy as a hog. Grandma's tone is upbeat. Now tell me about you. How's life in the big city? Any luck finding new editing jobs? Not yet, but I have some leads on potential clients, I say, crossing the street to my brownstone. And before you ask, I'm fine. I don't need any help, truly. Emma. Grandma lets out a sigh. I wish you'd just let us take care of those loans for you. I told you we can take out a second mortgage, and no, absolutely not. My grandparents scrimped and saved their whole life so they could buy a house in Florida, and I have no intention of letting their retirement be ruined because of me. Their pensions and Social Security payments barely cover their bills as is, and a second mortgage payment would place an enormous strain on their finances. It's bad enough they worked an extra 7 years to support me through middle school and high school. I'm not letting them take care of me in my adult years as well. I'd sooner starve than impose on them like that. Grandma sighs again. Emma, sweetie, accepting a helping hand every now and then wouldn't make you like your mother. You know that, right? Grandma, stop, please. I'm getting by perfectly well, I say, fumbling for my keys as I approach my door. Now, if you don't mind, I just got home, so I have to feed the cats. Give my love to Gramps, okay? Will do. Take care, sweetheart, and talk soon. Can't wait till Thanksgiving. Grandma replies, and I hang up, dropping the phone back into my pocket. Clutching my keys, I reach for the door, eager to get inside and escape the cold. Miss Walsh? The male voice from behind me startles me so much that I spin around with a squeak, my keys dropping onto the wet ground. Standing in front of me is a short, middle-aged man in a puffy winter jacket, his arms laden with a giant bouquet of pink and white roses. I'm so sorry, miss. I didn't mean to scare you, he says quickly. I'm just here to make a delivery. A delivery? I'm shaking both from the cold and the excess of adrenaline, my heart beating so fast I can barely speak. For me? Yes, he says with a smile. Approaching me, he bends down to pick up my keys and hands them to me, along with a giant bouquet. This is for you. Okay. Awkwardly, I take both the keys and the flowers. The roses are covered in clear plastic that protects them from the elements, but even so, I can tell that the flowers are gorgeous. I'm about to ask who sent them when something else occurs to me. Oh, I don't have any cash for the tip, I say, feeling like a bumbling idiot. I'm so sorry. I meant to stop by an ATM, but oh, no, it's all good. Everything is taken care of. A big smile splits his weathered face. You just enjoy these, okay, miss? He turns and hurries away, clearly eager to get out of the rain, and it's only when he's gone that I realize I didn't have a chance to ask who ordered the delivery. Oh well, hopefully there's a note. My fingers are almost numb from the cold, but I manage to get my keys into the lock and get inside. Instantly, my 3 cats rush toward me, meowing like I've been gone for a week instead of just over 8 hours. Yeah, you'll get fed, I mutter, trying not to trip over Mr. Puffs. Just give me a second here. The furry asshole ignores my words, and my walk to the kitchen is perilous, to say the least. Between the humongous bouquet of flowers and the giant cat winding between my legs, it's a wonder I don't trip and split my head open. Finally, I'm in the kitchen. Putting the flowers down on the counter, I quickly prep my cat's dinner and give it to them. Then, taking a deep breath, I approach the bouquet. Before I can pull off the protective plastic, my doorbell rings. Cotton Ball looks up from his dish and gives me an inquisitive look. Sorry, bud. I'm as clueless as you are, I say to the cat as I hurry toward the door. The only person who comes over unannounced is my landlady, and she has no reason to do so tonight, as I've paid my rent on time for several months straight. When I look through the peephole, I see a man dressed in a FedEx uniform walking away. Another delivery? What the hell? Since I was born and raised in Brooklyn, I wait until the stranger is gone before cautiously opening the door. Sure enough, there is a big box sitting on my doorstep. I bend down to pick it up, but it's way too heavy to lift. Swearing under my breath, I wrestle it inside and close the door. Then, dying from curiosity, I grab a knife from the kitchen and open the box. Dumbfounded, I stare at the contents. Cat food. Lots and lots of cat food. All the best brands, and a variety of flavors, some dry and some canned, like my cats prefer. It's enough cat food for the next several months. I'm so confused I almost miss the small white envelope taped to the side of the box. It's only when I'm dragging the heavy box to the kitchen that I see it. Stopping, I grab it and open it, ripping the pretty paper in my eagerness. The note reads, "I hope your cats enjoy this, and you like the flowers. Marcus." A wave of heat rushes through me, chasing away the lingering chill from the cold outside. The images from the sex dreams I've been trying not to think about flood my mind, and my breathing speeds up. The deliveries are from Marcus. I all but run into the kitchen, hoping there's another note with an explanation as to why, but there's nothing attached to the bouquet. Queen Elizabeth looks up from her dish and gives me a look that suggests I'm crazy, but I ignore her. Marcus sent me roses and cat food. This is far beyond any kind of Good Samaritan act. I remember the ridiculous thought that had occurred to me last night, that he might be interested in me. And all of a sudden, it doesn't seem quite so ridiculous anymore. Because what other explanation is there when a man sends a woman flowers? Well, flowers and cat food. "Do you think he likes me that way?" I ask Queen Elizabeth, and the cat gives me a look that suggests I'm acting like I'm 12. Okay, fine. Maybe I'm reading too much into my cat's looks, but I swear she's able to communicate with me. She tilts her head this way and that way when I talk to her, and sometimes she even meows in response, which is exactly what she does now. "You do think he likes me?" I ask, irrationally excited, and Queen Elizabeth meows again before returning her attention to her food. "I'll take that as a yes," I say, and go hunting for a vase big enough to hold the enormous bouquet. As I bounce around the kitchen, I realize I feel giddy, almost high at the idea that Marcus might like me. He's the polar opposite of my type, but something about him draws me, which explains those dreams last night. His big hands all over my body, his hard, muscled chest pressing down on my breasts as he moves inside me. Whoa. A hot flush crawls along my hairline. Despite my lengthy dry spell, I have a healthy libido and enjoy sex, but this is something else entirely. My heart seems to have taken up drumming lessons in my chest, and my panties feel damp from the mere recollection of those dreams. This is attraction like I've never felt before, base, primal, and having nothing to do with logic or intellectual connection. I know next to nothing about Marcus, and what little I do know suggests we don't have anything in common. Yet the mere thought of him turns me on more than an hour of foreplay by my college boyfriend. "Do you think I'm in heat?" I ask Queen Elizabeth as I grab a big pot, the closest thing I have to a vase of needed size. I mean, I'm human and all, but this is kind of extreme, don't you think? Queen Elizabeth looks up and daintily runs her tongue over her face, cleaning off any remnants of her food. "Yeah, you're right. I'm being ridiculous. Human females don't go into heat." I fill the pot with water, remove the plastic wrap from the roses, add the flower food to the water, and put the roses in. They end up listing to one side, but they still look beautiful and very expensive. If my grandmother knew about this, she'd say Marcus is courting me. "Do you think he's courting me?" I ask the cat, but Queen Elizabeth just sits gracefully and starts licking her paw. She's clearly had her fill of interaction with a human, and I don't blame her. I should be calling Kendall with this, not bugging the cat. As soon as the thought occurs to me, I run to my phone and eagerly swipe across the screen. Before I can select Kendall's number, though, a message notification pops up and my pulse jumps further. It's a text message from an unknown number. "Hi, Emma," it reads. "This is Marcus. I hope the flowers and the gift for your cats got to you safely. Are you free this Thursday evening? I'd love to take you out to dinner. We can debate Wallstreet ethics if you wish." I stare at the text, feeling like I'm hyperventilating. It shouldn't have come as a surprise. After all, I did think just moments ago that Marcus might be courting me. But somehow I still feel caught off guard. Dinner? On Thursday? That's tomorrow. Something soft taps my calf, and I glance down to see Cotton Ball swishing his tail back and forth as he stares up at me. He wants to have dinner with me tomorrow, I tell the cat, and even to my own ears I sound shell-shocked. Can you believe that? Unlike Queen Elizabeth, Cotton Ball is not a female of any species, so he doesn't care about my dating issues. He just lifts his paw and swats my calf again. Sighing, I put down my phone and pick him up, knowing he won't leave me alone otherwise. Thankfully, he's not as heavy as Mr. Puff's, so I can hold him with one arm, which leaves my hand free to pick up the phone again. Chewing on my lip, I read the text again and wonder what to do. If this were any other man, Mark from the dating app, for instance, it would be easy. I'd thank him for the thoughtful gift, suggest a pizza place next to my apartment, and see how things go. But this is Marcus, he of the tailored suits and sex dream-inducing hands. He makes me uneasy, and not just because of my physical reaction to him. As bizarre as it is, there's something almost dangerous about him, something not quite civilized. Cotton Ball emits a loud purr, bringing my attention back to him, and I put the phone down to stroke his soft, fluffy fur. He's the cuddliest of my cats, demanding a thorough petting session at least once a day, and I'm normally happy to oblige him. Right now, though, I'm too overwhelmed to deal with a needy cat. Marcus asked me out on a date, and I have no idea what to say.
Chapter 12. Marcus. Why isn't she answering? Frustrated, I glare at the phone, where a tiny notification at the bottom informs me that my text message was received and read 10 minutes ago. I know my frustration is not rational. 10 minutes is not that long, but I can't control the impatience consuming me. Why the hell isn't she answering? I'm still in my office, and I have 1,000,001 things to do before I can leave tonight, but all I can focus on is Emma and the lack of response to my text. Instead of working, I've spent the past 10 minutes staring at my phone. 10 minutes that, at my current hourly rate of earnings, equate to several $1,000s. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, 3 dots appear. Emma is typing something. I find myself holding my breath like some teenager with a crush, so I force myself to look at my computer screen instead of at the phone. It's useless, though. The spreadsheets dance in front of my eyes, the numbers refusing to make sense. This is fucking insane. Earlier today, I called Emmeline to thank her for the dinner and inquire about her flight, and I didn't feel even a fraction of this bizarre excitement. Our conversation was calm and polite, and when I hung up the phone, I was more convinced than ever that Emmeline is exactly the kind of woman I've been looking for. Beautiful, intelligent, steady, and well-mannered. She wouldn't scream, curse, or throw a fit when something didn't go her way. She wouldn't stumble home drunk with 2 equally drunk assholes in tow, and she certainly wouldn't fuck said assholes in front of her 5-year-old son. My mood darkens at that childhood recollection, and I glance back at the phone where the 3 dots are still going strong. What is Emma doing for so long? Writing a text message essay? The very fact of my impatience adds to my frustration. Over the decade and a half of running my fund, I've developed nerves of steel. I've had to, because as the fund's assets under management have grown, so has the amount of capital we risk on each trade. Just in the past 5 years, our biggest positions have gone from several $1,000,000 to just over $1 billion. If I hadn't taught myself patience, if I hadn't learned to stop watching every tick of the market and focus on what needs to be done, I would have stressed myself into an early heart attack. So if I can put $1 billion trade out of my mind, why can't I tear my eyes away from those 3 fucking dots? Come on, I will the screen. Just spit it out already. If I could reach through the phone and shake the little redhead, I would do so because this is ridiculous. How long does it take to type out a yes or a no? Preferably a yes, but even a rejection would be better than this endless waiting. I wouldn't accept it, of course, but it would give me something to go on, a starting point for the rest of my Slake Hunger for Emma campaign. I would be able to strategize and come up with the next move. The three dots disappear and are replaced by text. Thank you for the flowers and the food. My cats are very pleased, smiley face. How about Papa Mario's Pizza at 7 p.m. for our ethics discussion? My first reaction, relief, transforms into confusion as I look up the suggested restaurant. A quick search reveals a dingy website and Yelp reviews talking about a hole in the wall with the cheapest pizza in Brooklyn. It's about 2 blocks from Emma's apartment, but as far as I can tell, that's the only thing the place has going for it. Why the fuck does Emma want to go there? I drum my fingers on the table, thinking, then text. If you're in the mood for Italian, I know an excellent family restaurant in Bensonhurst. They have the best pizza in the 5 boroughs, and it's not far from where you live. Pick you up at 6:45? The 3 dots appear almost instantly this time, followed by, what is the place called? I frown at the phone. In my experience, when I offer to take a woman out, she lets me pick the place and doesn't question my suggestions, especially when that particular suggestion happens to be the same type of food she seems to be in the mood for. Emma is either a control freak or really particular about her pizza. My frown deepening, I text back the name of the place and wait. 3 minutes later, I get the response. Okay, I'll be ready. The surge of satisfaction is as intense as when I made my first million. Grinning savagely, I put away the phone and turned my attention back to my computer screen, where the numbers are finally making sense again. The first big battle of the Emma campaign is won, and I can't wait for the rest of the war.
Chapter 13. Emma. When I tell Kendall about my upcoming date, she all but chokes on her coffee. You what? I'm meeting a hedge fund manager for dinner tonight, I say, pouring a liberal amount of milk into my own cup of java. So you see, I'm a cat lady no more. Okay, whoa. Back up a step. She leans forward, her hazel eyes gleaming with the intensity of a shark smelling blood. When and how did this happen? Grinning, I tell her the whole story, beginning with a mix-up in identity. So yeah, I conclude, I have a date tonight. With Marcus, the hedge fund manager, she says incredulously, who pretty much stalked you to your apartment and sent you cat food, and gave you sex dreams. Yep, my grin widens, the one and only. Kendall and I rarely get to see each other during the weekdays, but I have this Thursday off, so I decided to come up to Manhattan to grab coffee with her. I had to see her reaction in person. She doesn't disappoint. Emma! My name comes out in a high-pitched squeal. Holy shit, I'm so proud of you, bagging Mr. Hedge Fund. The other customers in the cafe look our way, but I'm too excited to feel embarrassed. Ever since Marcus's text, I've been trying to come off this strange high, but I can't. I'm so hyper I barely slept last night, but I don't feel the least bit tired. I have a date with Marcus. Do you know what his fund is called, or how big it is? Kendall asks, bringing me out of a feverish daydream that involves Marcus's hands and other body parts. Or what his last name is? In general, have you looked him up? Do you know if he's married, single, or divorced? No and no, I say, fighting the urge to blush at Kendall's innocent mention of big. I'll ask all this tonight. I'm sure he's not married, though. This Emmeline sounded like a blind date, and he wouldn't be doing that if he already had someone. Oh, please, Kendall snorts into her coffee. Don't be naive. Men do all sorts of things for pussy. Besides, you've just met the guy. For all you know, he could be a serial adulterer. True, but I don't think so. I could be totally off base, but Marcus didn't come across as someone who would cheat. Not once he was in a committed relationship, at least. For a moment, I wonder what happened that day with Emmeline, but then I dismiss the thought. If he'd clicked with her, I doubt he would have asked me out. All right, Kendall says, flicking her long dark hair back over her shoulder. Just remember, do your due diligence because men are dogs. Or if the feline analogy works better for you, tomcats. You've always dated schmucks who couldn't get 2 women if they tried, so you don't have a lot of experience with this. Gee, thanks. Glad to hear you have such a high opinion of my charms. Kendall has the grace to look embarrassed. Look, I'm not saying you're not attractive. You just tend to gravitate toward guys who don't make you feel threatened in any way. What? This conversation has definitely taken a turn for the weird. Kendall sighs. Emma, don't take this the wrong way, but you're just not a risk taker, okay? You like to play it safe, to have everything be comfortable and routine. That's why you're still in Brooklyn instead of sunny Florida, why you're working at that little bookstore instead of trying for something better, and why you hide behind your cats and your ratty clothes and your books, and men who are the way you perceive yourself, instead of the way you really are. Wait, what? There's so much bizarre psychobabble there that I don't know what to tackle first. I can't believe Kendall has these opinions of me. You yourself said that I've turned into a cat lady, so how exactly am I misperceiving myself? And I am so a risk taker. I freelance, remember? My voice rises with indignation. As to why I haven't moved to Florida with my grandparents, you know full well that the majority of the publishing industry is here, and if I want a career in it, but you don't. Kendall gives me a steady look. A career in publishing might have been your goal once, but you've told me yourself that the industry landscape is shifting, and the big publishers aren't what they used to be. That's why you're able to get all those freelance editing jobs, which, by the way, is something you've been content to do half-heartedly on the side, instead of trying to make a real go of it. She crosses her arms. Face it, Emma, you're in Brooklyn working at your very first job because you don't like change. That's not true. Yes, it is. She uncrosses her arms and picks up her coffee cup. That's why you wear your clothes until they literally fall apart on you, and why you only date guys who stand no chance with another girl as pretty as you. As to the cat lady thing, I just said that because you've been neglecting yourself, and I wanted you to do something about it, which you clearly did. She grins, obviously hoping to bring the topic back to Marcus, but I'm too upset to smile back. The worst part of Kendall's unflattering assessment of me is that she's right about one thing. The career I planned for might never come to pass, yet I haven't changed course to adjust for that, choosing to hide my head in the sand instead. When I started working at Smith's and Books, I was a junior in college, and I regarded the job as a temporary part-time opportunity, a way to make a little money while being loosely connected to the industry I wanted to be in. But when I couldn't find a job with a major publishing company upon graduation because all of them were shrinking and restructuring, I stayed at the bookstore, all the while telling myself that I was just biding time until my real career began. Weeks turned into months, then into years, and here I am, still biding time. Self-disgust is a thick knot in my throat as I confront another unpleasant fact. Kendall is right about my freelance editing, too. I have been half-assing it, treating it more like a hobby than a business. I haven't even built a website, though I know the importance of that in a largely online book community. No wonder I'm drowning in student loans and stressing over every meal out. I'm living in one of the most expensive cities in the world on a cashier's salary, all so I can cling to the idea of a career that I know no longer makes sense. Why didn't you say something earlier? I try and fail not to sound bitter. Being forced to face reality is a bitch. If you saw that I was being an idiot, why didn't you say something before this? Ready to hear it. And because I didn't want you to react the way you're reacting now. I know you have reasons for wanting the comfort of the familiar, and it's not like you were doing anything dangerous or self-destructive. You just let yourself get into a rut, which is something I know you can fix if you set your mind to it. Besides, I selfishly want you here, not in Florida or wherever you might move to if you had a full-time editing business that you could do from anywhere. Kendall, I don't know if I want to smack her or hug her, so I settle for doing neither. Instead, I pick up my cup of coffee and try to manage my spinning thoughts as I gulp down the hot liquid. Latching on to the one inconsistency in her spiel, I ask, if you feel this way, why are you trying to warn me away from Marcus? Isn't he a step in the right direction? Something different? Something risky? Yes, of course he is, and that's why I'm so proud of you. Kendall's tense expression eases as a playful grin tugs at the corners of her lips. You are venturing out of your comfort zone, and I couldn't be happier about that. I just don't want you to rush into anything blindly and get hurt as you take your first baby steps. Not all guys are as harmless as your pet geeks, you know. I put down my cup. Of course, I know that. Harmless is definitely not how I'd describe Marcus. Forcing a smile to my lips, I say, I'll be careful, I promise. I'll question him about everything and make sure there's no wife lurking in the bushes. In fact, I'll drill him so good he won't know what hit him. Kendall looks at me, owl-eyed, and I look back at her. In the next instant, we're both laughing uncontrollably, and the tension between us dissolves without a trace. After I return home, I shower, shave my legs, and let my hair air dry to ensure that the curls don't turn too frizzy. Afterward, I spend a solid hour trying on and discarding various outfits. I finally settle on a pair of jeans, my newish pair of high-heeled boots, only a couple of seasons old and still mostly in fashion, and my dressiest blouse with a sweater wrap over it. I even add a little jewelry and a full layer of makeup, including foundation, which I promptly wash off because it makes me look like a clown. I end up with a little mascara to darken my auburn lashes, a light dusting of powder to make my freckles less visible, and a simple application of lip gloss, my usual first date look. In fact, everything about the way I look tonight is my usual, though I've spent double the amount of time it took me to prepare for the date with Mark. I don't know what I was hoping to achieve with all my primping, but after I'm done, I look the way I always do, just maybe a shade more polished. I'm not one of those girls who has the skills to transform herself with a few strokes of a makeup brush. Whenever I try, I end up with a clown look, like I did earlier. Normally, it doesn't bother me, but tonight, I wish I knew how to shade and contour, how to make my eyes look huge and my cheekbones more prominent. Tonight, I want to look pretty for him. Stop being pathetic, Emma. Just stop it. Even as I tell myself this, I know it's useless. The jittery high that prevented me from sleeping last night is nowhere near abating, the mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation making me unable to sit still for longer than a minute. I have to proofread a short story for a client, but whenever I sit down and try to focus on it, the words dance on the page, and all I see are his cool blue eyes staring back at me. Great. Just freaking great. This is why I should have said no. Maybe Kendall is right, and I tend to go for safe guys, but that's how I like it. This unsettled, insecure feeling, this desperate desire to please a man, is not something I enjoy. In college, when all my friends were going crazy for jocks and bad boys, I dated nice, quiet guys. Like Jim, my last serious boyfriend. With him, I never had to worry about dressing up. He liked me as much in my dorky pajamas and house slippers as in skirts and high heels. In fact, he often couldn't tell the difference between the two. To him, a girl was a girl, regardless of what she was wearing. We ended up breaking up because he became too clingy, demanding my time and energy to an exhausting degree. But until then, dating him had been like being with one of my friends, easy and comfortable. Staring at myself in the mirror, I see a pink flush on my cheeks and fever-bright gleam in my gray eyes. This dinner with Marcus is not going to be easy and comfortable, I know that much. It also won't be cheap. The restaurant Marcus chose is at the upper limit of my budget, so I'll be skimping on groceries for the rest of the week. I should have insisted on going to Papa Mario's, but I was afraid Marcus would hate it, so I caved. Something I wouldn't have done with Jim or any other guy I've dated. For a moment, I wonder if it's too late to back out, but then I chide myself for being a coward. I can survive one dinner with a man who makes me feel like this. If what Kendall says is true, it should actually be good for me, get me out of my comfort zone and all. Besides, it's not like anything long-term would come from it. Whatever Marcus's reasons are for asking me out, I'm sure he'll realize right away that we have very little in common, and it'll end there. I can do one date with Mr. Hedge Fund. In fact, I'm looking forward to it.
Chapter 14. Marcus. I'm on Emma's doorstep at 6:45 p.m. sharp, despite the usual rush hour traffic. My regular driver, Wilson, is excellent like that. Through some uncanny combination of driving apps and instinct, he always manages to get me places on time, a virtual impossibility in New York City. Taking a breath to steady myself, I ring the doorbell. Anticipation curls through me as I hear a loud meow, followed by light, rapid footsteps. "Stop it, Puffs." Emma's irritated voice is muffled by the door. "Come on, you evil creature. Shoo!" A second later, the door swings open, and I see her standing there, flushed and a little disheveled. Instantly, heat surges through me, centering low in my groin as images of how she'd look after I fuck her slide through my mind. Focus, Marcus. Deep breath. It's obvious she's made an attempt to tame her red curls, but one stubborn one is already sticking out sideways, and her well-worn beige coat is askew and covered with white cat hair, the source of which must be the 3 cats in the hallway behind her. One is calmly licking its paw, the other one is swishing its tail, and the third one, a giant one, is giving me what I can only interpret as a glare. In the next moment, the giant cat streaks toward me and Emma bends down to catch him. "Hi," she says breathlessly, straightening with the wriggling cat held tightly against her chest. "Sorry about that. Mr. Puffs gets jealous when men come over." "Really?" My voice is tight. To my shock, I understand exactly how the white, fluffy creature feels because the thought of men coming over to Emma's apartment makes me want to strangle someone. Swallowing down the irrational surge of jealousy, I force my tone to lighten. "Possessive, is he?" "Oh yeah, big time." She blows at another messy curl to get it out of her eyes. "Hold on, let me grab my bag." Straining to hold the cat with one arm, she reaches for the brown purse I saw her with before, and I help her by grabbing it off the hook by the door. "Thanks," she says, bending down again to lower the cat to the floor. He tries to rush at me again, but Emma expertly blocks him with her legs, snatches the bag out of my hand, and says, "Let's go." I step outside, grateful to be out of the cat-infested hallway. When I was a boy, I used to like dogs and cats, but pets are no longer my thing. I dislike the idea of taking care of them. Plus, there was the whole messy and unsanitary aspect of having animals indoors. Not your problem, I remind myself, as Emma manages to step outside sans cats and turns around to lock the door. If I were actually considering Emma for a relationship, this would be a stumbling block, but I'm not. I'm here to satisfy this odd craving and get her out of my system. Done with the door, Emma turns around to face me and gives me a sheepish smile. "Sorry about that. My cats can be a bit of a handful." "No problem." I politely offer her my arm, and my stomach clenches when her small hand slips through the crook of my elbow. She's tiny next to me, the top of her head barely coming up to my shoulder, but there is nothing childlike about the sensual sway of her hips as I lead her toward the car. Emma Walsh might not be my type, but I want her too much to care.
Chapter 15. Emma. Marcus leads me to a fancy black car parked at the curb and opens the door for me. I climb into the back seat, my face hot despite the chilly November wind as he takes a seat next to me. The car is large and spacious, but with Marcus there, it feels stiflingly small. It's not just his large frame either. It's everything about him. He takes up space in a way that goes beyond the physical, commanding the very air around him. Next to him, I feel like an asteroid caught in Jupiter's orbit, small and powerless to escape the massive planet's pull. "The restaurant, please, Wilson," Marcus says to the driver, and I see the man nodding in the rearview mirror as the car starts moving. The fact that Marcus knows his name makes me wonder if Marcus hired the car for the evening, or if Wilson is his personal or company driver. Do people even have personal drivers these days? Before I can ask, Marcus transfers his attention to me. "So, Emma," he says, his deep voice tugging at that something in me again. "Tell me about yourself." "What would you like to know?" I ask, hoping I sound like a confident woman instead of the nervous 12-year-old who seems to have taken up residence in my body. I have the unsettling sensation that I'm at an interview, an impression heightened by the fact that Marcus is wearing a suit and tie under his unbuttoned winter coat. I know he probably just came from work, and his wearing a suit doesn't mean I'm horribly underdressed, but I feel that way, awkward and uncertain and out of place. Stop it, Emma. He's just a guy. A hot and intimidating one, but still just a guy. Have you lived in Brooklyn long? He asks, his pale gaze shadowed in the darkened interior of the car. All my life, I say, striving for a casual tone. Born and raised. How about you? I was born on Staten Island, he says, so I'm a New Yorker, like you. Oh, are you from an Italian family by any chance? That could explain the olive tint to his skin. On my mother's side. His words are curt, as if I'd touched a nerve. I'm mostly Irish, I volunteer, hoping to smooth over whatever error I made. I guessed as much. Marcus's reply is wry, and as the car stops at a streetlight, I see a hint of a smile on his face. I instinctively touch my hair. It's pretty obvious, huh? It was just a lucky guess, Marcus says, and I grin at him, some of my nervousness ebbing. We continue to make small talk for the rest of the 15-minute ride, and I learn that Marcus lives in Tribeca while his office is in Midtown. I'm not surprised. If anyone could afford to live and work in Manhattan, it would be a hedge fund manager. My Wallstreet salary index is fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure those guys make bank. What's your fund called? I ask, remembering Kendall's question as the car comes to a stop in front of a small, cozy-looking restaurant. My friend will undoubtedly drill me on this, so I better gather all the facts. Corelli Capital Management, Marcus replies as he opens the door and climbs out, then holds open the door for me. As I step out, he gently clasps my elbow, making sure I don't trip, and warmth floods my cheeks again. Even through the thick wool of my winter coat, I feel the restrained strength in his grip, the power that could be devastating if unleashed. He doesn't let go of my arm when I'm out of the car, and my heart pounds heavily as I stare up at him. The streetlights illuminate his mouth and the hard cast of his jaw, leaving his eyes in shadow. And for a brief, fanciful moment, I feel like a small animal caught in a hunter's snare. Something hot and electric arcs between us, the moment fraught with tension. Then he releases my arm and turns, offering me his elbow. Shall we? His tone is calm, as if he's completely unaffected by whatever just passed between us. But I see his jaw flex and know he'd felt it too. My mouth feels dry as I slip my hand through the crook of his elbow, trying not to think about how thick and solid his arm feels. It's like holding onto a curved tree trunk, albeit one that's covered by expensive cashmere wool. Do you come to this restaurant a lot? I ask, trying not to pant audibly as we walk toward the restaurant. Marcus's legs are so long I have to take 2 steps for every one of his, and the exertion, combined with the heat thrumming under my skin, makes me feel like I've just run up 3 flights of stairs. I've been here a few times, he says, opening the door for me. I step inside and appreciatively inhale the rich, savory aroma of basil, roasted garlic, and fresh-baked dough. It smells like Papa Mario's, but the ambiance is infinitely better. The restaurant is small, but clean and cozy, with about a dozen tables covered by white linen tablecloths and topped with vases with real flowers. Even though it's a Thursday night, each table is occupied, except the one in the far corner. This dinner might be worth a hit to my budget. Unbuttoning my coat, I smile up at Marcus. This looks like a very nice place. Thanks for suggesting it. My pleasure. Here, let me take your coat. He reaches for it, and I have no choice but to let him help me. His fingers brush over my shoulders in the process, and despite my sweater wrap, a tingle of heat radiates from the spot where he touched me. God, if he ever puts his hands on my bare skin. Just the thought of it makes my insides tighten. A short, dark-haired man of indeterminate age approaches us. Mr. Corelli, welcome. His Italian accent is strong, and his dark eyes twinkle brightly in his thin face. "Please, follow me." He leads us to the corner table. As we walk, Marcus places his hand on the small of my back, and I suck in a breath, stunned by the unexpectedly possessive gesture. My heart hammers faster, and the hot tingling spreads throughout my body, centering low in my core. Marcus's touch is light, solicitous, but there's no mistaking the purely male intent behind it. He's staking a claim, announcing to the other patrons in the restaurant that, for this evening at least, I belong to him. It's something a man might do with a woman he's had sex with, or one he intends to have sex with very shortly. Stop it, Emma. He's just being a gentleman. Even as I tell myself that, my pulse picks up further, and the images from my sex dream return in all their graphic glory. "Are you okay?" Marcus asks, glancing down at me, and I realize my burning face must match my hair. "Yes, of course," I say, trying to ignore the feel of his large palm resting on my back. "I'm just a little hungry, that's all." "Then let's feed you," he says, dropping his hand as the waiter pulls out a chair for me. Marcus steps around the table to his side, and I sit down, grateful for the reprieve from his devastating nearness. "What would you like to drink?" the waiter asks, hovering next to our table. "Just regular water for me, please," I say. "Same for me," Marcus says without missing a beat. I smile, pleased he didn't try to force an alcoholic beverage on me. Some men like to do that, as if a woman drinking plain water somehow offends their masculinity. I'm no stranger to alcohol. I got puking drunk in college more than once, but I don't enjoy the taste of wine and beer enough to have it with every meal. Picking up the menu, I study it carefully. The only thing that looks to be within my price range is the pizza appetizer, so that makes my choice easy. I look up to find Marcus watching me with strange intensity. "What is it?" I ask, feeling self-conscious. "Nothing." One corner of his mouth turns up. "You're just really cute when you're concentrating." Treacherous heat blooms in my cheeks again. Thanks." The words come out on an awkward mumble. Clearing my throat, I ask in a steadier tone, "What are you getting?" "I'm thinking of the calamari for the appetizer and the squid ink risotto for the main course. You're welcome to share either or both with me," he says, closing his menu. "What about you? Anything in particular look appealing? If you'd like, I can recommend a couple of dishes depending on what you're in the mood for." "Oh no, I'm good, thanks. I'm going to get the pizza appetizer." He smiles. "Good choice. It's excellent here. What about the main course?" "I'm not that hungry, so I'll just stick with the appetizer." It's not a lie because I had a peanut butter sandwich before leaving the house. It's my way of ensuring I don't get starvation jitters while waiting for the food to arrive, and that I don't blow through my monthly food budget in one meal. "Are you sure?" He's frowning at my about face, so I give him my best not hungry smile. "Yep, the pizza appetizer is plenty for me." "Okay, if that's what you want." He motions for the waiter to come over and we order our food. Then the waiter leaves and it's just the two of us at the semi-private corner table. We stare at each other and I feel that electric tension again, growing and expanding until it engulfs us in a strange kind of bubble. We're in a crowded restaurant, but it's as though we're completely alone. I'm cognizant of him to a degree that scares me. Every movement of his hands, every breath that expands his chest, I feel it so completely it's as if an invisible string joins us together. Desperate to break the spell, I say, "So, Marcus,
"So, Emma,"
he begins at the same time, and we both burst out laughing, the tension bubble popping like an overfilled balloon.
"You go first,"
Marcus says, grinning, and I all but melt into a puddle on my seat. He has the best smile, all strong white teeth and sexy grooves in his lean cheeks. It softens his hard features and warms his cool blue eyes, taking him from intimidatingly good-looking to panty-wetting hot. It's not an exaggeration either, because I actually feel my underwear getting damp. If I had my vibrator right now, it would take me less than 2 minutes to come. Maybe 3 minutes, tops. God, Emma, get your mind out of the gutter. Fighting a blush that threatens to color my face again, I say, I was just going to ask if you ever ended up connecting with Emmeline. You know, the woman you were supposed to meet that night? Marcus's smile fades. I did, yes. Oh? My chest constricts for some reason. And what happened? He shrugs. We ended up having dinner. How about you? Did you ever meet up with Mark? No, I didn't, I say, the tightness in my chest intensifying as I recall Kendall's warning. I think he must have been upset by what happened, because he never responded to my apology email. I see. Marcus takes a sip of water. His gaze is inscrutable as he studies me over the rim of his glass. Are you disappointed by that? Who was this Mark guy anyway? Just someone from a dating app, I say. Marcus is clearly trying to keep the focus on me, but with Kendall's words ringing in my ears, I'm not so easily deterred. What about this Emmeline of yours? I ask, keeping my tone casual. Who was she? And how did your dinner go? She was also from something like a dating app, he says, leaning back in his chair. His face is expressionless, and that, combined with his lack of reply to my second question, makes me even more curious about the topic. What's something like a dating app? I ask, reaching for my own water glass. I was just joking with Kendall about drilling Marcus, but some instinct is telling me to pursue this. A matchmaker, he says bluntly. I choke on a sip of water. Coughing, I sputter out, a what? A matchmaker, he repeats, his blue gaze chilly again. It's not that different from a dating site or app, just more personalized and exclusive. Right. I gulped down more water to hide my shock. I hadn't really thought about why Marcus was supposed to meet a woman he didn't know. I just sort of assumed he'd been set up on a blind date by a friend, or that he has a casual profile on a dating app like I do. Lots of people do that these days. Online dating is no longer just for losers. A matchmaker, however, is a different matter. A matchmaker implies he wants something serious, and possibly quite particular. Are you, crap, how do I phrase it without freaking him out? Are you looking to get married or something? Of course. His expression cools further. Isn't that the very definition of the service a matchmaker provides? Well, yes. I know I sound like an idiot, but I can't help it. I've never known the male of the species to seek out a relationship with the goal of marriage. From what I've seen, if a guy proposes, it's because he either wants to please his girlfriend or he's met the right person and realizes it's the logical next step. I'm sure there are men who want marriage for the sake of marriage, but I've never come across such a creature personally. Even my super clingy ex in college didn't think much of the institution. He just wanted us to be together all the time. Of course, my experience is with guys in their teens and 20s. Marcus is 35, a man in his prime, not a boy still trying to find himself. Before I can come up with something clever to say, the waiter brings our appetizers. He places both the pizza and the calamari in the middle of the table, likely assuming we're going to share them. Saliva pools in my mouth at the delicious smell. I wait impatiently until the waiter leaves, and then I grab a slice of the pizza, nearly burning my fingertips in the process. So you are hungry after all? Marcus asks, spearing a circle of calamari with his fork. For pizza? Always. I bite into the slice and close my eyes, almost moaning out loud as the taste of gooey melted cheese and perfectly seasoned tomato sauce fills my mouth. Swallowing the bite, I open my eyes to lick the drop of sauce from my fingers and pause at the hungry look on Marcus's face. Want a slice? I offer, realizing I'm being rude by hogging the entire pizza to myself. It's a small one, but that doesn't mean I can't share. Marcus is watching me eat so intently, it's as if he wants to devour me instead of the pizza. No, thanks. His voice is slightly hoarse as he reaches for his glass of water. You're welcome to the calamari, though. I'm good, thanks. I bite into the pizza again. The taste is just as orgasmic as before, but I manage to keep my eyes open this time and see Marcus's jaw tighten as he watches me chew and swallow the bite. He's not eating. He's just staring at me, and it makes me distinctly uncomfortable. "You sure you don't want some?" I ask after I swallow my third bite. I'm happy to share, honestly. "No, I'm fine. Please enjoy." He picks up his fork again and starts eating the calamari. I decide that turnabout is fair play, so I openly watch him as he consumes his food. It's amazing, but he somehow makes even the mundane act of eating seem powerfully masculine. The muscles in his jaw flex as he chews, and his throat works with each swallow, drawing my attention to the strong column of his neck. I've never thought of eating as a sexual act, but with Marcus, I find myself mesmerized by the way he brings each ring of calamari to his mouth and decimates it with his straight white teeth. My breathing speeds up, and the dampness in my underwear intensifies as I picture his mouth engaged in other, much dirtier activities. To distract myself from the bizarre urge to lick a breadcrumb off his lip, I focus on devouring my pizza. When only the crust remains, I look up. "You never told me how your dinner with Emmeline went," I say. "Did your matchmaker do a good job?" Marcus puts down his fork and very deliberately finishes his calamari. "She did," he says, patting his lips with a napkin. "And?" I prompt when he doesn't elaborate. "And nothing." His face is expressionless. "Emmeline fits certain criteria I have. That's all." That's all? The pizza in my stomach turns into a brick. If she's so perfect, then why— "Here you are, your squid ink risotto," the waiter announces, placing the dish in the middle of the table with a flourish as a busboy clears off the remnants of the appetizers. I clamp my lips shut, forcing myself to stay silent as the waiter puts clean plates in front of each of us. As soon as he's gone, I open my mouth to resume my questioning, but Marcus shocks me by reaching across the table and covering my hand with his. His palm is dry and warm, and so large I feel engulfed by the heat of it. My breath catches in my throat, and my heartbeat skyrockets further as he leans in, his blue eyes locked on my face. "Emma, listen to me," he says quietly. "Emmeline has nothing to do with this. I've only met her once, and there are no commitments of any kind between us. As you might have guessed, I'm attracted to you. Very attracted. And if I'm not mistaken, you're not completely indifferent to me either." His thumb brushes across the pulse in my wrist, which is hammering wildly, corroborating his words. He must feel it too, because his eyes darken and his voice deepens, turning low and seductive as he murmurs, "Why don't we just enjoy this meal and see where things go from here?" I swallow thickly. I don't know what to say or even to think. A part of me is bizarrely hurt that this other woman fits some predetermined criteria of his, but what he's saying makes sense too. One dinner doesn't make her his girlfriend, any more than it gives me any rights over him. If anything, his honesty is a point in his favor. He could have lied about meeting Emmeline, and I would have been none the wiser. At the same time, I'm aware that I'm not thinking clearly, that his touch is heating me from within and turning my brain to mush. Pulling my hand away, I fight to regain my composure. "I think you should eat your risotto. It's probably getting cold." He regards me wryly, and I have a feeling he knows exactly how he's affecting me. "Of course, the risotto. We don't want it to get cold," he says, and I let out a relieved breath as he reaches for the dish. Scooping up a spoonful of risotto, he reaches for my plate. "Oh, no, I'm good, thanks." I move the plate out of his reach. "It's all yours." "You don't want to try even a little?" "I'm really full, thanks." It's a lie. My mouth is watering at the succulent-looking seafood in the risotto, but I don't want to muddy the waters when it comes time to pay the check. "It's all yours." After a moment of hesitation, he puts the risotto on his plate and digs into it with evident enjoyment. "Not a seafood fan?" he asks after the first bite, and I shrug in response. I love seafood, but if I admit that, my refusal to try Marcus's dish will confuse him even more. "I think it's okay," I say when he lifts his eyebrows, silently urging me to elaborate. "I'm pretty open to all foods, actually." "Ah, an omnivore. I like it." He grins, showing those sexy cheek grooves, and I feel the magnetic pull again. It's unfair that the best-looking guys are often the ones who are off-limits, either because they're assholes or because they're gay. Marcus is definitely not the second, but the jury is still out on the first. So, I say, leaning back in my chair to put a little distance between us, what is your criteria? Do you have a list with all the qualities you want your future wife to possess? He raises his eyebrows. Doesn't everyone? Isn't there something you'd want your future spouse to be? Some qualities you'd want him to have? I guess, I say after considering it for a moment. I definitely want him to be nice and kind to animals, especially cats. I'd want him to love cats. That's it? Just nice and an animal lover? Well, it would be good if he shared some of my interests, too. The more we have in common, the greater the odds that it'll work out longer term. Marcus regards me with a curious smile. You don't believe in opposites attracting? No, not in any sustainable way, at least, I say as he reaches for more risotto. I think two incompatible people can be physically attracted to each other, but for an enduring relationship to form, you need a stronger foundation. There must be shared values and beliefs, goals and interests. If you don't have that, the relationship will be like a match, fragile and quick to burn out. His smile fades, his expression turning unusually serious. You are right. I couldn't agree more. He takes a sip of water before digging into his food again, and I watch in amazement as he polishes off a sizable portion of the risotto in record time. So, you never told me what your criteria is, I say when Marcus's plate is almost clean. Is it height, weight, eye color, education level? He puts down his fork, his gaze locking on my face. Education is definitely important to me. So is intelligence, upbringing, and a certain amount of ambition. Obviously, I want to be attracted to her, but I'm also looking for a woman who'd be an asset at social functions, someone who'd be comfortable interacting with my existing and potential investors, and wouldn't mind doing so. And above all else, I want a wife who'd understand that a successful career requires sacrifices, that you have to work hard to get somewhere in life. I stare at him in fascination. His bluntness is both refreshing and off-putting. What he's describing sounds more like a business partner than a love interest. For some reason, I picture the wife from House of Cards, the cool, elegant Claire, who's the female half of the scheming political power couple in that Netflix show. Marcus isn't a politician, but his requirements seem similar. I don't know what kinds of events he attends, but the fact that he refers to them as social functions implies they are not backyard barbecues in Brooklyn. What about her personality and interests? I ask, pushing away my dismay. I don't know why I feel disappointed at Marcus's revelations. It's not as if I didn't know we were utterly different. When he asked me out, I knew the dinner would be a one-off affair, and it shouldn't upset me to learn that he wants a woman who's my polar opposite. I'm no longer as socially awkward as I was in my teens, but I'm enough of an introvert that a casual gathering with friends can tire me out. Just the thought of some big formal event makes me want to break out in hives, and I wouldn't know how to begin making small talk with those investors of his. I can talk to strangers about books, but that's about it. Personality and interests? Marcus appears to give it some thought as the waiter clears off the dishes and sets a dessert menu in front of each of us. Yes, obviously, those are important too. I'd want her to be level-headed and reasonable, not a hothead. Also, honest. Honesty and loyalty are very important to me. Me too, I say, nodding. I think trust is key in any relationship. Marcus smiles. I'm glad we agree on that. What about interests? I ask. What do you like to do in your spare time? I don't have a lot of that, but I suppose I like collecting things, and I'm also into fitness. I enjoy challenging myself physically, so I do a couple of marathons and triathlons every year, and I train in mixed martial arts when I can. Oh, wow. That explains his athletic build, and confirms my overall impression of him. Marcus is indeed an extreme type A, the kind of man who accomplishes more in a week than most people do in a lifetime. That's hardcore. What about you? he asks as I glance down at the dessert menu, more out of habit than any real interest.
Do you have any hobbies?
I like books, I say sheepishly, looking up to meet his gaze. I wish I could tell him I'm into something cool and sporty, like skiing or rock climbing, but walking is my exercise of choice. The only time I run is when I have to catch the train. When I'm not editing books, I'm usually reading them. I elaborate when he continues looking at me. I also like TV shows and movies. You know, pretty normal stuff. Oh, and cats. I love my cats, obviously.
Obviously, he says, one corner of his mouth lifting in a smile. I like books too, by the way. In fact, would you like some dessert?
The waiter asks, approaching our table, and I shake my head. I'm good, thanks.
None for me either. Thank you,
Marcus tells the waiter. We'll just take the check, I say before he can slip away. The waiter nods and disappears, and I turn to find Marcus watching me with a frown.
In a hurry to leave?
No, but I figured you might be, I say honestly. Clearly we don't have a lot in common, and you're a busy man, so... My voice trails off as Marcus's frown deepens.
Emma, listen to me,
he begins. But before he can finish, the waiter returns and discreetly places a small black folder in the middle of the table. In a practiced move, I snatch up the folder and open it, quickly skimming the lines on the check to confirm that my portion is indeed what I expected.
What are you doing?
Marcus asks as I reach into my wallet and take out $28, the cost of my pizza appetizer, plus tax and tip. I look up to find his blue eyes narrowed and his jaw set in a hard line. I always pay for myself, I explain, putting the money into the folder. I don't think it's right for my date to pay for me when I'm perfectly capable of buying my own meal. I start to move the folder back to the middle of the table, but Marcus reaches across the table and catches my hand.
Emma.
His grip on my fingers is gentle, but his eyes glint harshly as he says in an even tone,
I asked you to dinner and I'm paying for it. End of story.
My breathing speeds up at his touch, and it's all I can do to say steadily, I understand the custom, but I don't feel comfortable with it. I prefer to pay my own way. A muscle ticks in his jaw.
Why? A dinner doesn't mean you owe me. You don't have to sleep with me just because I'm paying for your pizza.
The ache between my thighs returns as his words bring up the images from my dream. I know that. My words come out strangled. His palm is warm and strong, keeping my hand pinned in place with no effort, and I feel like I'm burning up from the heat inside me. It's just my dating policy, that's all. He stares at me, his eyes boring into mine, and the rest of the restaurant fades away again. It's as if we're completely alone, the tension thrumming between us like an exposed wire. I feel caught, utterly powerless to break his spell as he leans in until his face is less than a foot from mine.
This is not going to end here, kitten, he says softly. You know that, right? It doesn't matter if you pay for your dinner or not, because we're still going to end up in the same place.
I can literally feel my panties getting soaked. What place?
My bed.
His eyes glitter darker.
Or your bed. Or a hotel bed, if you prefer. Hell, it doesn't even have to be a bed.
My breath stops in my lungs. I've never been propositioned so bluntly, and certainly never in those terms. Most men try to couch their intent in terms of romance, or avoid talking about it at all. Certainly, my ex-boyfriend would have turned redder than my hair if those words had come out of his mouth. I should probably be insulted, but I'm too turned on to work up any real indignation. Something about his unapologetic crudeness intensifies the wet heat between my legs, turning my insides soft and liquid. I want exactly what he's offering. He's all wrong for me, and I want him. I want him more than I've ever wanted anything. I have to go. My voice sounds choked as I yank my hand out of his grip and stand up, nearly turning over my chair in my haste to get away. Spinning around, I rush to the coat check, like the coward that I am, the scenes he evoked playing in my mind like a graphic movie. I almost have my coat when a big hand reaches past me, grabbing it before I can. I look up, my pulse accelerating further as I meet that cool blue gaze.
"Let me take you home,"
Marcus says quietly, and I stare up at him, powerless to do anything else as he wraps the coat around my shoulders, his warm fingers brushing over my collarbone. My neck hurts from arching it back to hold his gaze, but I can't look away from those magnetic eyes, can't focus on anything but the dark, heated promise within them and my own helpless response.
"I won't pressure you to do anything you don't want,"
he promises softly, and I believe him. Swallowing my heart back into my chest, I let him button up my coat and lead me out to the car.
Chapter 16. Marcus. Emma is quiet during the short ride to her place, her gaze trained on the streets outside the window, and her luscious little butt positioned as far away from me as the car's width allows. I let her be, though the temptation to touch her, to remind her of the scorching chemistry between us, is nearly impossible to resist. But resist it I do, because I promise not to pressure her into something she's not ready for. It's bad enough I came onto her like a barbarian, all my hard-earned social graces decimated by a toxic mix of lust and confused anger. I asked her on a date, and she paid for herself. She paid for her own fucking pizza. Even now I can't believe she did that, or that I let her. It's just that she caught me off guard, grabbing the check so quickly and with so little hesitation. Normally, when a woman offers to split the bill or pay for her own portion, it's done more as a courtesy gesture, a nod to the modern times and the women's liberation movement. It's a woman's way of showing that she doesn't really need a man to pay for her, though, of course, she's secretly quite pleased if he doesn't accept her half-hearted offer and pays anyway. At least, that's how it was when I was a student and didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Once I started earning real money, the half-hearted offers petered out, and by the time I made my first $10 million, I forgot what it was like to have my dates play that game. Women now just assume that I will pay, both because I'm a man and because I'm filthy rich, and I don't mind. It's as it should be. If I'm with a woman, I take care of her. Not with Emma, though. She didn't make that assumption, nor did it feel like a game with her. She didn't offer to pay, she simply did it, plopping down her cash before I could so much as look at the check. She was deadly earnest about it, too. It wasn't a joke. For whatever reason, it mattered to her. I take a calming breath and try to talk myself into looking away from her delicate profile. She's still gazing out the window, her small hands clenched tightly in her lap, and her curls wild and unruly around her freckled face. I don't understand her, and I don't understand my reaction to her. I want to reach over and scoop her up, to put her on my lap so I can feel the soft curve of her shapely ass against my groin. I want to tangle my fingers in that wild mane of hair and arch her head back so I can kiss the pale white flesh of her throat, taste the pulse throbbing underneath that translucent-looking skin. How have I not realized before how sexy, petite, lushly curved women can be? When she was standing there at the coat check, looking up at me with those startled gray eyes, it was all I could do not to bend down and grab her, to just lift her and carry her off like the delicious little prize she is. No other woman has ever elicited that urge in me, and certainly not Emmeline, with her sleek, elegant beauty. I suck in another breath and finally succeed in dragging my gaze away from Emma. It's pointless to compare the 2 women, because what I want from them is so different. Emma is a whim, an anomaly in a lifetime of self-discipline and rigid planning, while Emmeline is what I've always wanted, what I've worked toward since I was a little boy. Since I made a vow to myself to never, ever fall for a woman like my mother. Not that Emma is like her, at least as far as I can tell from our short acquaintance. My mother was impulsive and selfish, and I see little evidence of those traits in my companion, nor is Emma an alcoholic. All she had to drink at dinner was water, a choice I heartily approve. I have nothing against moderate social drinking, but I can't deny that when I see a woman imbibe more than a couple of glasses of wine, I get uncomfortable flashbacks to my vodka and vomit-soaked childhood. To this day, I can't stand vodka, even of the upscale variety. My phone vibrates in my pocket, and I pull it out, glancing at the screen. Fuck. My inbox is blowing up with urgent messages from Jared Lee, my chief investment officer. I must have forgotten to check my phone during dinner because there are 5 emails in a row. An opportunity to invest in high-risk municipal bonds has fallen into our lap, and he needs to know if we should pull the trigger, given our views on interest rates. I swiftly review the bond specs and fire off a reply authorizing the $700 million investment. Our analysts expect the municipality to have a successful capital raise before the next Fed meeting, which means our investment should double in value before the bond market tanks on the interest rate hike. I finish with the emails just as the car pulls up to the curb in front of Emma's apartment. Getting out, I open the door on her side and help her out. Her hand lightly touches mine as she climbs out of the car, and I can't help closing my fingers around that small palm, then holding it a second too long. Her startled gaze flies up to mine again, and I feel a tremor pass through her as she pulls her hand away. Marcus, her voice is decidedly unsteady. I really need to, of course. I give her a smile as I walk her to the door, though the newly awakened caveman inside me howls in frustration. You have to go. I understand. She nods, fumbling inside her bag as we stop in front of the door. Extracting her keys, she looks up, adorably flushed. I do. My cats need to be fed, and I have to get up early for work tomorrow, and Emma. I stop her rambling with another deceptively calm smile. Say no more. I promise not to pressure you, and I won't. Her flush intensifies. Oh, well, thank you. I had a great time. Me too. What are you doing tomorrow night? She blinks up at me. Tomorrow? Friday, I say helpfully. You know, the day before the weekend. Oh, She stops and bites her lip. You want to see me tomorrow? I do. And the day after, and the one after that, I realized to my shock. This dinner was far too short to satisfy my curiosity about Emma and her effect on me. I want to fuck her, yes, but I'm also intrigued by her. I want to understand what makes her tick and why that matters to me. I guess, she hesitates, then blurts, I guess that would be okay. Excellent. It takes everything I have to conceal my savage satisfaction. Any specific food preference? I'm not picky about food, but I do have a budget preference, she says, and I sigh, realizing we're going to fight that battle all over again. Now is not the time for it, though, so I just nod and say, I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Pick you up at 7? Okay, she smiles up at me. 7 it is. Thanks again. And before I can so much as kiss her cheek, she turns around, opens the door, and disappears inside to a chorus of outraged meows.
Chapter 17. Emma. Are you seriously telling me that you have a second date with Marcus Corelli of Corelli Capital Management? Kendall's eyes look like they're about to pop through my phone screen. Yes, why? Do you know him? I angle the phone slightly and look around to make sure the bookstore is still empty. My boss is off having a long lunch, and though it would have been smart to use this downtime to edit the short story I've been procrastinating on, I couldn't resist video calling Kendall about my date instead. Do I know Marcus Corelli? Her voice rises. Are you shitting me? Are you that oblivious to the world? Never mind. Her face grows in the phone camera as she leans in. I should know by now. If it's not in a book or doesn't have a tail, it doesn't exist for you. I sigh. My friend is nothing if not a drama queen. Just tell me already. What do you know about Marcus? Because I'm seeing him again tonight and you couldn't be bothered to Google him? I didn't get a chance. I got home pretty late, had to feed the cats right away, and then respond to some editing clients. And today was an extra early shift with a bunch of morning deliveries, so I'm just now catching my breath. I also spent some quality time with my vibrator last night, needing to relieve the tension from the date. But Kendall doesn't need to know that. I suppose I could have spent that time stalking Marcus online, but it honestly didn't occur to me. I've never dated anyone who had anything interesting for me to find. Kendall rolls her eyes, making sure the camera catches her doing so. Yeah, okay. Whatever. Listen up, Miss Oblivious. She leans in until her perfectly shaped nose dominates the screen. Anyone who's ever glanced at the Wall Street Journal or turned on CNBC, as in everyone in NYC with the possible exception of you and your cats, knows about Marcus Corelli. He's one of the biggest movers and shakers on Wall Street. His fund has some insane number of billions under management, and his presentations can make or break a stock. Don't you remember that thing with the corrupt tire company a couple of years ago, where a prominent hedge fund manager bet the stock would go to zero? And it did. It was all over the news, and they even made a documentary about it on Netflix. Maybe. I frown because that does ring a bell. That was Marcus's fund? Yep. He laid out the case against the company at one of those big-name investment conferences, and the stock dropped like 60% that day. The CEO was crying foul all over the news, but the regulators refused to do anything, and a few months later, the company filed for bankruptcy. Wow. I do recall the story now. It was all over the headlines, to the point that even I couldn't miss it. The tire company, an old and highly respected industry leader, had been accused by some hedge fund big shot of everything from manufacturing defects to slave labor conditions in its factories, and the resulting publicity tanked the company's stock, hastening its demise. And that big shot was Marcus, the man who called me kitten and openly told me he wants to fuck me. The man I'm going on a date with tonight, for the second time, has been all over the Forbes list of billionaires. Kendall continues, and I blink, realizing I briefly tuned her out. Billionaires? My voice sounds choked, but I can't help it. I knew Marcus was wealthy, of course. Everything about him spoke of money. But there's a huge difference between a run-of-the-mill asset manager and a hedge fund titan who can take down a huge public company with a few PowerPoint slides. Marcus isn't just big leagues. He's the freaking Olympics. Yeah, he's made the list several years in a row, Kendall says. I can't believe you didn't know. He must have taken you someplace nice. He did, right? Her eyes narrow. Yeah, very nice. I still sound like I swallowed a frog, but I'm proud of the fact that I can speak at all. It was this little Italian place in Bensonhurst and... In Brooklyn? Kendall's eyebrows pull together. Are you serious? Yeah, why not? I sound defensive, but I can't help it. Kendall is a total snob when it comes to the boroughs. Never mind that some areas of Brooklyn are now cooler and more expensive than certain parts of Manhattan. She still thinks it's the boonies. She sighs and shakes her head. You're hopeless. Just please tell me you didn't try to drag him to that pizza dump by your house. I can feel my face turning red. You did? Oh my God, Emma. I didn't know, okay? I snap, feeling uncharacteristically embarrassed. Obviously, I wouldn't have invited him there if I'd known. But we didn't end up going there. We went to a place he suggested. So it's all good. She pinches the bridge of her nose. Tell me you at least let him pay. I stare at her, unblinking. Emma? What? My jaw tenses. You know how I feel about mooching. It's not mooching. It's tradition for a man to pay when he invites a woman out, and he probably made more than your monthly salary in the time it took you to open your wallet. I do a quick calculation in my head. She's not far off. I don't care how much he makes, I say. That's not what it's about for me. Kendall's expression softens. I know, Ems, but letting a guy pay for dinner is not even in the same ballpark as I know. I'm not an idiot. I just can't. I stop and take a breath, then glance up at the clock. Look, I should go. My boss will be returning from lunch soon. Okay, but you have to tell me how it goes tonight, okay? Promise you'll call me as soon as you're home. Will do, unless it's late. Her eyes widen. Are you planning to? No! I don't know. Oh, never mind. I'll call you as soon as I can. And I hang up before Kendall can give me the third degree about that. As I sort and organize the romance novels in the back of the store, I can't help but think about what I didn't want to discuss with Kendall. Am I planning to do it? I know what Marcus wants, what he's after. Sex. Me and him, sweaty bodies entangled, just like the mental images I masturbated to last night. The question is, am I going to do it? Am I going to sleep with him knowing it's most likely a one-time deal? Even if there was no perfect Emmeline in the picture, a handsome, wealthy man like Marcus is bound to be inundated with women. Gorgeous, tall, slim-hipped women whose hair wouldn't dream of frizzing up, and who'd let him pay for their meal without a qualm. Would he call them Kitten, too, in that rough velvet voice of his? Or is that pet name reserved solely for me? How did he come up with it anyway? Is it because I like cats? As with that proposition, I should probably feel insulted. But the way Marcus said it, the way he looked at me... Emma, can you come here, please? I stop in the middle of shelving a new shifter romance and yell out, "Coming, Mr. Smithson!" Then hurry to the front where my boss is ringing up a customer. "Can you please recommend a new urban fantasy series to Mrs. Wilkins?" he says, nodding toward the customer. An old woman so tiny Mr. Puffs could carry her away. "She likes mind readers and such." "Oh, no problem," I say, beaming at the woman. "I know just the thing." And pushing aside all thoughts of my dilemma, I focus on my job.
Chapter 18. Marcus. As Friday afternoon wears on, I find myself watching the clock, to the point that I'm counting the minutes during the weekly fund performance review with my portfolio managers. It's nearly 5 p.m., which means that in 2 short hours, I will see Emma again. I can't fucking wait. "And so I think this will make a great pitch for your Alpha Zone presentation next month," my telecom PM says, bringing my attention back to the meeting. "If you want, I'll have my analyst email you his research." I have no idea which stock he's talking about, having zoned out like a schoolboy daydreaming about his crush, but there's no way I'm admitting that in front of everyone. "Yes, have him email it to me," I say coolly. "I'll take a look at it over the weekend." Alpha Zone is an association of the most influential players on Wall Street, and the December conference is its bedrock. There, we each pitch our best idea, whether it be a currency play, a private equity investment, or something as boring as going long a particular stock. And the best performing investment is awarded a prize at the following year's event. The prize itself is nothing major, a trip to Bora Bora or some such, but the boost to one's reputation is priceless. The telecom PM's proposal better be something good. Jared, my chief investment officer, gives me a weird look. He's not used to me being less than 110% engaged, and I force myself to concentrate for the rest of the meeting, digging into the fund's major positions as thoroughly as I always do. Though the healthcare team had a big trade go against them yesterday, the fund overall is up another 0.5% this week, putting us at nearly $93 billion in assets under management. If this winning streak keeps up, we'll breach $100 billion in no time. Normally, the thought would fill me with great anticipation, but the only thing I'm anticipating right now is picking up Emma in 2 hours. I can already picture how this date will unfold. I'll ring her doorbell, and she'll jump out, all adorably flushed as she escapes her cats. I'll clasp her hand in mine, pulling her to me for a carefully controlled kiss, our first, and then we'll step into my car. There, we'll make out as Wilson drives us to my favorite Greek restaurant in the East Village, one that happens to be reasonably priced, as per her request. By the time we get to the restaurant, food will be the last thing on both of our minds, and as soon as the meal is over, I'll take her to my Tribeca penthouse and fuck her senseless. We'll spend the weekend in bed, and by Monday, I'll have her out of my system. I'll be rid of this unhealthy craving for good.
Chapter 19. Emma. I turn off the water and pull open the shower curtain to find the bathroom floor looking like it's been snowed on. Some bits of paper are so small they float in the air as I step out, hollering, "Puffs!" at the top of my lungs. That damn cat. He must have sensed that I'm about to leave him and his siblings alone for the second evening in a row, so he shredded the entire roll of toilet paper while I was in the shower. Swearing, I hop around on one foot, trying to get sticky pieces of damp toilet paper off my other foot with a towel. It takes forever to do that, not to mention clean up the bathroom, and the doorbell rings as I'm frantically applying my mascara. Crap, I'm still in my underwear. "One sec," I yell as I rush across the room to grab my clothes from the closet. Mr. Puffs hisses at me from the top shelf, and Cotton Ball lets out a plaintive meow, batting my leg with his paw so I'll cuddle him in front of the TV, as is our custom on Friday nights. "Sorry, not tonight, buddy. I have a date." I bend down to scratch his head apologetically when Mr. Puffs jumps down from the top shelf, right onto my shoulders. "Ah!" I pitch forward with a startled cry, pushed off balance by 15 pounds of feline slamming into me from an almost 6-foot height. Queen Elizabeth jumps off the bed and runs over, meowing in obvious concern as I land on all fours, and at the same time, the doorbell rings again, followed by a deep voice calling my name. It's Marcus, and he sounds worried. Mr. Puffs is still on my shoulders, somehow balancing without sinking his claws into my skin, and I throw him off as I get up yelling, "Coming!" Except I trip over Cotton Ball and go flying with a panicked cry. I land on my stomach, the impact knocking all breath out of my lungs. Wheezing, I flop over onto my back and hear Marcus's deep voice shouting, "Emma, are you all right?" right before something slams into my door, causing it to rattle on its hinges. Holy cow, did he just try to break it down? Another hard slam and the door hinges creak, nearly giving way. I want to yell that I'm all right, but I can't gather enough air. All I can manage is a pathetic wheeze that I'm okay, and with all 3 cats meowing loudly around me, even I can't hear what I'm saying. Rolling over onto my stomach, I push up to all fours so I can crawl over and stop him, when the next kick or body slam or whatever knocks the door completely off its hinges. It flies in, like during a SWAT raid in an action movie, and behind it stands Marcus, dressed in a suit and another pricey-looking unbuttoned coat. His blue eyes narrow in on me with unmistakable concern, and he rushes over, crouching next to me as Queen Elizabeth and Cotton Ball zoom under the bed. Only Mr. Puffs remains by my side, arching his back and hissing at the intruder before also dashing away to hide under the bed.
"Are you okay? What happened?"
Marcus demands, gripping my arms to steady me as I attempt to rise to my feet. With his help, I succeed, though my left knee complains loudly. I must have banged it on the floor. "I'm okay. I'm fine," I croak as he begins to pat me down, looking for injuries. His big hands are hot on my bare skin, and with a wave of mortification, I realize that I never got a chance to put on clothes. I'm standing in front of him in nothing but my blue lacy bra and panties, which, granted, is my nicest set, but still.
"What happened?"
He demands again as I back away, cheeks flaming as I wrap my arms around my stomach, which is quite a bit softer than I'd like. He's undoubtedly used to fitness bunnies with rock-hard abs and… Wait a minute. Why am I thinking about my lack of abs when he broke down my door? I tripped, okay? I tripped. I still sound winded, but I'm not sure how much of that is from the fall versus the way he's staring at me, with a worry that's gradually transforming into something else. Something hotter and infinitely more dangerous.
"So you're not hurt,"
he clarifies in a huskier tone, and I shake my head, my face burning as the heat in his eyes intensifies. And it's not just my face. My whole body feels like it's on fire as he takes a step toward me, his powerful hands flexing at his sides. It doesn't seem like my lack of abs is a turnoff for him, at least judging by the dark hunger in that stare. "The door," my voice comes out thin and high. "You, broke down the door."
"The door?"
He doesn't seem to know what I'm talking about as he takes another step toward me, his gaze falling to my bra, which is pushing up my heaving breasts, as if offering them up like a sacrifice. I swallow as he reaches for me, one big hand curving tenderly around my jaw, while the other lands on my naked shoulder, squeezing lightly. His touch burns through me, spiking my pulse and sending a heated shiver down my spine. Looming over me, he's so tall I have to crane my neck to hold his gaze, and it dawns on me that I've never felt so small and vulnerable before, or so wanted.
Emma.
His voice is low and thick as his fingers slide into my hair, sensuously cupping my skull.
Kitten, may I kiss you?
He's bending his head as he speaks, and the last word is murmured against my lips, his warm, faintly sweet breath mixing with my own shallow exhalations. I never get a chance to respond because my hands reach up to clasp his broad shoulders, and my eyes close as my lips press against his, seemingly of their own accord. There's no logic in my decision, no reason whatsoever. We're utterly wrong for each other, and I'm bound to get hurt if we proceed. But for the first time in my life, I don't care about the risk I'm taking. There's no room for fear in the blazing need consuming me. He deepens the kiss, arching me back over his arm, and my breasts mold against the hard plane of his chest as my head falls back, supported only by the cradle of his palm. His lips are warm and soft, his tongue exploring my mouth with sensuous skill, and a small moan escapes my throat as his lips leave mine and trail over my jaw to nibble on my earlobe, where the heat of his breath sends goosebumps rippling down my arm.
Your cat,
Marcus says hoarsely.
He's not going to run away?
I stare at him blankly, then recall the broken door. My cats are not in the habit of trying to run away, but then again, they've never had the temptation of a doorless entrance. He shouldn't, I say, but just to be on the safe side, I bend down and pick up Mr. Puffs, cradling him against my chest. The evil beast starts purring, and I stroke him, grateful for the shield his large, furry body provides. I still don't have my clothes on, and with the icy November air blowing in through the open doorway, it's quickly getting cold in the apartment. Plus, there's that whole being semi-naked in front of Marcus bit. So, I say awkwardly, inching toward my closet with Mr. Puffs in my arms, about the door.
I'll get it fixed, don't worry.
His gaze tracks me with undisguised hunger as I make my way back to the closet, then put Mr. Puffs down so I can dress.
It looked like it was on its last legs anyway.
Can you turn around, please? I blurt out, holding my jeans in front of me when he shows no sign of looking away. I know it's silly. He's already seen most of me. But I don't want him to watch my butt jiggle as I perform the maneuvers required to pull on my tight jeans. There's way too much butt jiggle for my liking. He opens his mouth to say something, then apparently thinks better of it and turns around.
Go ahead,
he says thickly.
I won't look.
I quickly wriggle into the jeans, then throw on my second nicest blouse, my nicest being the one I wore out yesterday. I finish off the outfit with my sweater wrap and newish boots, and when I glance at the hallway mirror, I realize that my outfit is identical to yesterday's, the only difference being the blouse. Even worse, with all of my recent exertions, my mascara has smeared, leaving a raccoon-like smudge under my left eye, and my hair looks like I've been wrestling with a wildcat, which, given Mr. Puff's size, is not far from the truth. So much for impressing a billionaire. I'm muttering curses under my breath and trying to rub off the mascara smudge when Marcus asks,
Can I turn around now?
Crap. I smooth my hands over my hair, sneak another look in the mirror, and say glumly, Go ahead. I'd need an hour to fix the mess I see in the mirror, not a few minutes. Not that it matters either way. Now that I'm not so frazzled and my brain is not clouded by lust, an obvious fact occurs to me. With the door broken, I can't leave my apartment and the cats. Tonight's date is not happening.
Chapter 20. Marcus. So, about the door, she starts again when I remain silent, eyeing her hungrily. Should I call a repairman or... She lets the question trail off. I'll do it, I say huskily, and forcing myself to look away from the temptation of her, I pull out my phone. My butler, Joffrey, picks up on the first ring, and I inform him of the situation. I need someone over here within the hour, I tell him, and he promises that it will be done. I hang up and see Emma staring at me with her mouth open, the big cat back in her arms. Someone is going to come on a Friday night? She asks incredulously. As in, right away? Of course. You can't not have a door overnight. It makes perfect sense to me, but she's looking at me like I've sprouted a horn on my forehead, and so is her cat. On a Friday night, she mutters, stroking the fluffy creature. Yeah, okay, sure. We'll stay here until they're done, I say, shrugging out of my coat. Even with the cold draft coming in, it's still too hot inside the apartment for me to wear it. Draping it over the back of the only chair I see, I tell her, it'll take them a little while to fix it, so we should probably go ahead and eat. Any preferences for delivery or takeout around here? She blinks. You want to have dinner here? Of course, I frown. Unless you're not hungry. Oh no, I'm hungry, she assures me, propping the cat higher on her chest. I just figured that given what happened, we would, reschedule or whatever. Oh no, there's no way I'm leaving her alone in a Brooklyn apartment with a broken door leading to the street. Granted, this is not what I envisioned for our second date, but I don't mind this development one bit, though she did almost give me a heart attack with all the falling sounds and the screaming. I thought she'd gotten seriously hurt, and the chilling fear I'd experienced had been entirely out of proportion to the length of our acquaintance. I don't want to analyze why that is, or why I don't have any desire to escape her cramped basement studio. It reminds me of the apartment my mother and I had lived in when I was in middle school, and I hated that place. So by all logic, I should hate this too. But I get an entirely different vibe here. Even though the only window in Emma's studio is the same tiny slit near the ceiling that we'd had, and the paint on her walls is also peeling in places, the stink of alcohol and desperation is missing. Her apartment is run down and tiny, but it's cozy, a home, not just a place to crash. Of course, if there were no cats, it would be even better. I can see two more white furry creatures poking their heads from under the bed, their big green eyes staring at me. Judging by all the meowing I'd heard when Emma fell, I have a strong suspicion they, or the huge one in her arms, were somehow responsible. We're not rescheduling, I tell Emma firmly. I'm here and you're here, and that, I point at her tiny desk, will work as a table. All we need is food, and if you tell me what you want, I can have it delivered or ask my driver to bring it to us. Before she can respond, the big cat meows, fluffy tail swishing from side to side as he gives me a threatening look from his perch on Emma's chest. I glare back at him. I know he did that hissing, meowing thing while we were making out on purpose, to cock-block me. If not for that, Emma and I might have made it all the way to her narrow bed, and I would now be balls deep inside her sweet, lush body. Sorry, she says, stroking the creature to calm him down. He's just possessive, I know. I would be too if she petted me like that. In fact, just watching her small hand move over the cat's white fur is making me jealous. I want her to touch me like that, to run her soft hands all over my body. So, yeah, about the food, Emma says when the cat starts purring. I'm really flexible. There's a deli on the corner that makes great sandwiches, and there's also a Hero's place I like a couple of blocks over. Neither one delivers, but Wilson will bring it. That's not a problem. So, sandwiches or Hero's? She hesitates, then says, Let's do Hero's. The place is called Hero World. Okay, good. We're having a meal together. Concealing my satisfaction, I take out my phone and text Wilson the instructions. He immediately replies that he's on his way, and I put my phone away, only to see Emma regarding me with a strange expression. What? I frown at her. Did I do something wrong? She shakes her head, then blurts out, Is it always so easy for you? Do you always just snap your fingers and things happen? You mean, can I always get Heroes delivered? Yes, usually. Is that a bad thing? She puts the cat down. No, of course not. It's just not what I'm used to, that's all. She walks over to sit down on the bed, and the two cats come out from underneath to drape themselves over her lap. The big one that she just put down eyes me evilly for a moment, as if debating if I'd make a good meal, then stalks over to join the others on the bed, puffy tail held high. I decide to ignore his disdain. It's a cat, after all. Taking a seat on the chair on which I hung my coat, I study Emma, trying to understand what it is about her that I find so appealing. Her looks, for sure. I can't wait to sink my cock deep into her scrumptious little body, but her appearance is only part of the draw. There's also something warm and tender about her, something that tugs at me in a way I don't fully understand. "What are they called?" I ask, figuring that since the cats are such a big part of her life, I can at least try to get to know them. "You said that one is Mr. Puffs, right?" I nod at the bad-tempered giant, who staked out a spot on her left leg by shoving away his much smaller competitor. She smiles, her eyes lighting up and her dimples coming out in full force. "Yes, that's right. This one," she looks down at her right leg, where a mid-sized cat is purring up a storm, "is Cotton Ball, and that," she nods at the shoved-aside cat, the smallest of the bunch, who's now daintily licking its paw, "is Queen Elizabeth." "How did you get them?" I ask. "And why 3? Your apartment is not very big. There's barely enough space for one small woman, as far as I'm concerned." She grimaces. "I know. I hate it that they're cooped up in this studio. They're used to it, having grown up here, but still, it's not good. I hope to afford a bigger apartment one day, but for now, all I can do is entertain them the best I can." She glances over her shoulder at the wall on the other side of her bed, and I realize that what I thought was a strange empty bookshelf is actually a cat maze that goes from floor to ceiling, an insane luxury in a place as space-constrained as this one. She is committed to her pets. "So you've had them from the time they were little?" I ask, and she nods, her expression darkening for some reason. "They were barely 2 weeks old when I found them." "Found them?" "They came into my life by accident. I didn't plan on any pets when I got this place," she says. "My friend Janie and I were driving to Woodbury Common, the big shopping mall upstate, and we stopped by a gas station on the way. I went around the back to use the restroom, and I heard these faint mewling sounds coming from the garbage can. When I looked inside, there was a box of kittens there, so tiny they barely had their eyes open." Her delicate jaw tightens, and a fierce look comes over her pretty face. "Some asshole threw them out, like they were trash." Asshole indeed. I don't consider myself an animal lover, but my hands itch with the urge to beat whoever did this shitty thing to a bloody pulp. "So you took them in?" I ask, doing my best to keep the anger out of my voice, and she nods again. "Of course. What else could I do? Janie is allergic, and nobody at the gas station would claim them. I thought about bringing them to a shelter. The vet I took them to said they're purebred Persians and would be adopted quickly, but they were beginning to cling to me by then, and I didn't want to cause them any more trauma. As it was, because they weren't properly weaned from their mother, they kept trying to suckle everything in sight for the first 2 years of their lives. It's only recently that they've calmed down." She gazes down at them with a tender smile, all fierceness gone as she scratches one furry creature behind the ear, then pets the other 2. All 3 set up a loud purr, and I again battle a surge of jealousy that she's touching them, not me. Fuck. I may need to consult a shrink. This can't be healthy. I'm about to ask her another question when I hear a knocking on the doorframe, and a spicy, savory aroma fills the apartment. It's Wilson with our food. I walk over to take the bags from him, and as I'm thanking him, Emma approaches. "Here you go," she says brightly, stuffing what looks like a 20 into Wilson's hand. "That should cover my portion." And ignoring the stunned look on my driver's face, she returns to join her cats on the bed.
Chapter 21. Emma. Marcus is looking at me like he's never seen a woman devour a gyro before. And maybe he hasn't. I bet all the supermodel types he dates survive on kale juice and broccoli. Then again, he's been eyeing me like this ever since I paid for my portion, so maybe it has something to do with that. His driver certainly looked shocked when I gave him the 20. Of course, it's also possible that he's not used to seeing a woman eating on her bed, surrounded by cats who have no compunction about stealing pieces of meat straight out of her gyro. I try to shove them away from my plate, but it's useless. There are 3 of them, and the gyro has too many points of access.
Are you sure you don't want to sit here?
He asks again from his seat at my desk, and I shake my head, my mouth too full to respond verbally. The desk is where I always eat, and other than the kitchen counter, it's the only table-like surface in my apartment. If I sat there, in the only chair I own, he'd have to stand or eat on my bed, and in the latter case, the cats would attack his food. Not a good situation. I already feel bad I'm subjecting him to the cramped mess that is my apartment. They'd be all over you, I explain after I swallow. They really like gyros.
Who wouldn't? These are great,
he says, and takes another big bite of the juicy pita in his hand. I brighten a little. Aren't they? I was worried he'd feel this kind of food is beneath him. The hole-in-the-wall place we ordered from is just one step above a street cart, but he appears to be genuinely enjoying himself. In general, he seems much more comfortable in my apartment than I figured a billionaire would be, though his big, broad-shouldered frame looks rather ridiculous stuffed into my tiny IKEA chair.
Yep, good choice,
he says, chowing down on his gyro, and I give him a big smile. Maybe this date isn't a total disaster after all. He's done with his food in record time. Getting up, he takes his plate into the kitchen, and then I hear the sink turn on. Is he actually washing it? Before I can marvel at the phenomenon, my ex-boyfriend didn't know such a thing as dish soap existed. There's another knock by the entrance. The repair guys have arrived. There are 2 of them. One looks like Santa Claus's younger brother, complete with rosy cheeks and a nearly white beard, while the other is a good-looking Latino guy about my age. He has an infectious grin on his face, and I smile back as I get up and place my half-eaten gyro on the desk. Hi there, I say, walking over to greet them. I'm Emma. Thanks so much for coming out so quickly. I stick my hand out, and the young guy grabs it eagerly, giving it a vigorous shake.
One,
he says, his grin widening.
Nice to meet you, Emma. And I'm Rodney,
the Santa Claus sibling says, shaking my hand next.
This the door we need to fix.
He glances at the door on the floor, then studies the frame, where I notice sizable cracks near where the hinges were attached. God, how strong is Marcus that he was able to do this much damage? That's the one, I say, trying not to wince as I picture the damage to my bank account from this repair bill. Do you have any idea how much this will cost?
Juan glances at Rodney in confusion.
Nothing, Marcus says, coming out of the kitchen. His voice is hard, utterly uncompromising, as is his expression when he looks at me.
It will cost you absolutely nothing, as I'm the one who broke it.
But you did it to save me, because you thought I was in trouble, I argue, but Marcus is not listening.
You will send the bill to me,
he orders, giving Rodney a piercing stare, and the man swiftly bobs his head.
Yes, of course, Mr. Corelli.
I'm tempted to fight further, but I don't have even $100 to spare right now, and I suspect their bill will run higher than that. It would be highly embarrassing if I insisted on taking care of the payment and then had to beg for an extension. Besides, Marcus does have a point. It was his savior complex that got us into this mess. Still, my chest feels unpleasantly tight as I go back to my food, leaving him talking to the repairman. I know letting Marcus pay for the door he broke doesn't make me like my mother. Logically, I know it. But I can't help feeling like I'm taking advantage of him. Like I'm using him, the way she'd always used her lovers and anyone else who cared about her. Shaking off the memories, I sit down at the desk and shoo Mr. Puffs away from what remains of my gyro, which is not much. The cats have stolen most of the meat while I was away. Sighing, I quickly gobble down the rest and carry the dirty plate to the kitchen, where the sink is indeed clean. Marcus not only washed his plate, he also dried it and put it away. I do the same with mine and then put on some coffee, in case he wants a cup. I also take out my last remaining pint of salted caramel ice cream and 2 bowls, figuring I at least owe him dessert. He enters the kitchen just as the hammering noises by the entrance begin. "Ice cream?" I offer, scooping a generous portion into a bowl, and he shakes his head.
None for me, thanks.
"You don't like it?" He shrugs.
I don't really eat sweets.
Of course he doesn't. Ice cream is for ordinary bums like me, not super achievers like Marcus who count fitness among their hobbies. I'm surprised he ate the greasy gyro. He's probably as disciplined in his diet as he seems to be in everything else. "How about coffee?" I ask, and he agrees to that. Black, of course. No sugar or milk for him. I pour each of us a cup, then carry my coffee and ice cream bowl back to the room. The cats are nowhere to be seen at first, but then I notice the tip of a fluffy white tail sticking out from under the bed. They must be hiding from the noise, which now includes both hammering and drilling. Setting my coffee on the nightstand, I sit down on the bed to eat my ice cream, and to my surprise, Marcus joins me there with his coffee instead of taking his seat at the desk. He sits next to me, less than a foot away, and though we're both fully dressed, I feel the proximity of his big body as keenly as if we were naked. My mind flashes to the kiss we just shared, and a hot flush covers my skin, my heartbeat jumping as if I've launched into a sprint. Oh God, that kiss. I've been trying not to think about it, so I don't turn into a blushing, stuttering mess, but I can't avoid it any longer. Kissing Marcus had to be the single hottest experience of my life. Better than any sex I've had or fantasized about. Everything about it was so wrong, yet so incredibly right. The way he held me, like he never wanted to let me go. The way his lips felt and tasted. He didn't touch me anywhere but my back and my head, but I was on the verge of combusting, so aroused I can still feel the dampness in my underwear. It doesn't help that as we sit on the bed, his weight is depressing my old mattress, creating a dip in the soft surface that makes it hard for me to sit upright instead of leaning toward him. It's like the illustrations of gravity, where a big celestial body creates an indentation in space-time that prevents a smaller body from escaping its orbit. That's Marcus for me. I can't seem to escape his pull, nor am I sure I want to. Our eyes meet, and the drilling noise intensifies, making any attempt at conversation impossible. Still, neither one of us looks away. With the men repairing the door, we have zero privacy, but the work might as well be happening miles away. All I'm aware of is him, his nearness, and the growing heat in his gaze. My hand is unsteady as I dip my spoon into the bowl and come up with some ice cream. Bringing it to my mouth, I close my lips around the creamy, salty sweet coolness and let it slide down my throat as Marcus's eyes darken, his hard features tightening as he reaches over me and sets his coffee cup down next to mine. I can feel his desire for me, sense its dangerous, potent draw, and my breathing quickens, my nipples pebbling inside the confines of my bra.
Emma.
His voice is low and hoarse, somehow audible over the din.
I think I want the ice cream after all.
My throat goes dry. Do you want me to go get you some? Holding my gaze, he slowly shakes his head.
Give me some of yours.
Oh God, there's no way he's just talking about the ice cream, not with that look in his eyes. Still, I move to hand the bowl to him, but he stops me by laying a big hand on my knee.
Feed it to me,
he orders huskily. My whole body now feels like it's on fire, tingles of electricity racing up my leg from where his palm is resting. The drilling noises stop, replaced by more hammering, but the construction noise is nothing compared to the roar of my pulse in my ears. Feed it to him. Right, okay. My hand trembles as I scoop up a spoonful of ice cream and bring it to his mouth. His hard, masculine, oh so skilled at kissing mouth. His lips close around the spoon, cleaning off all the ice cream, and my breath catches in my throat as his tongue flicks out to lick off the creamy droplet left on the handle, less than half an inch from where my fingers are spasmodically gripping the spoon.
Delicious,
he murmurs, his gaze burning me alive, and I belatedly remember that I have to breathe. Audibly sucking in air, I yank the spoon back, nearly tipping over the ice cream bowl.
Whoa, careful there.
His hand covers mine, steadying the bowl in my grasp, and the glimmer of dark amusement in his eyes tells me he knows exactly how he's affecting me, and that he's enjoying every bit of it. Asshole. I want to be mad at him, but I can't work up sufficient outrage. I've never been this turned on, ever.
Mr. Corelli, we're done.
Rodney's voice is like a bucket of ice water in my face. I'd completely forgotten the workers are here. Mortified, I jump to my feet, clutching the bowl in front of me like it can hide the burning flesh covering my cheeks. What the hell was I thinking? Another couple of minutes and Marcus and I would have been horizontal, ice cream and our audience forgotten. Juan's thoughts must be in line with mine, because he's smirking as he stands next to Rodney. Marcus doesn't seem fazed. Walking over to the reattached door, he inspects the work, then nods brusquely.
Good job, thank you.
Yes, thank you, I echo, fighting my embarrassment as the men gather their tools and leave with a friendly wave in my direction. I'm relieved when the door closes behind them. That is, until it dawns on me that Marcus and I are now all alone in my apartment. An apartment with a door that closes and locks.